Make sure it's working. Something. Loading. There we go. How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of Excuses with your favorite show hosts, Artistill.
And Volacel, and no Fern because Fern is busy working again, although he didn't give us any specifics this time. And it
Teddy.
is also an hour later than I thought it was going to be.
Yep. Few notes this week. Fern may be showing up later. We don't really know. He doesn't know either. So first half of the show, you just got me involved.
Yeah, he
And
said that he might show up later, but he does work a taxi business, so he could get a fair call at any time. So
yeah, and we also have me on new hardware because I upgraded my GPU this week. So if there's any issues with the stream or stuff going on, just let me know. I think I debugged it pretty good in the hour before the show, and have got it working pretty good. I didn't have to do any driver updates because it used driver package as old GPU. Plug the display ports in a few times to get the monitors to register, and it was good to go. But if you're noticing any audio or visual shoes on the stream itself, let me know in the Discord server, in live show chat or something, or send me a message and I'll get it fixed.
and we also have me in new time zone because I forgot New Zealand has to be different and have its own special daylight savings transition that I didn't know about. So I thought that the show was an hour ago and it totally wasn't. So I am an hour deeper into my bottles of beer than I normally am at start of showtime.
Right. So for the show this week, me and Vol are mostly going to be talking about Hoyo games again because that's stuff. My busy week did not happen because of. I'll explain when we get there.
Because because of something that didn't happen also.
Yes, because of a chance of something that might have happened that the weatherman promised was going to happen and then didn't happen.
Yeah. That. What he said.
So we'll get to that when we get to that. But for once, I think we got mostly positive news to talk about this week with all the stuff in the Hoyo universe for our weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and that I mean, that's in some sense that's positives. In other sense, the only real reason it's positive is that it highlights the failings of the rest of the industry.
Yeah,
And when you have like horrific Chicom Shoggoth using the most exploitative money spinning mechanics in human history is your superior moral actor. Like, where are we as a people?
yeah. Like if that monstrosity has to tell you, listen to your players and make the changes they want. I don't know how we got up where we are. Kind of probably
Yeah,
did
so
it on purpose.
before we dig in a bit deeper, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us on our Discord server where you can listen, where you can participate in discussions with show hosts and other listeners to the show, however you want, or mainly see spicy things that people post online. And as we get closer to November, I'm sure they will get spicier from Aristeel's department particularly. But yeah, you can get there by clicking on the link in the show description underneath the archive on YouTube.
Yes, indeed. Me and Vol have not discussed a MPP for this election yet, although it's something in the back of my head that I would like to crank out if I can get through tax season.
There's a part of me that wants to do it, and a part of me that feels like I'm sort of ennobling democracy if I do, because I'm not an American. I just don't value democracy the way Americans do. I think that it's sort of like a funny joke that people came up with in the West for some reason, and I don't really understand it. But in America, the voting process is regarded as important for some reason, and the whole debacle of an American election is highly entertaining in a variety of ways because of shenanigans, but it's also at the same time, I personally find it kind of depressing because people take it seriously like it means something. There is a world that exists in which it means something because Americans are incredibly nonsensical in the sense that they pretend like a president doesn't have the power of a king when the president 100% has the power of a king. Like, this is what is manifest to me. I don't know whether that's what the frame is intended, but that seems to me to be the case from the position of somebody who lives under a monarch.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
the president has the power of a king, but they don't have any of the constraints that make monarchy work. That is to say, that their progeny have to inherit the mess they made. So it seems to me that fundamentally democracy is a silly system, but Americans take it very, very, very seriously.
Wubba
They
got a
talk
lot of
about it
fire.
all the time too.
All that fire Wubba got.
But do bring the fire.
So, today for gameplay, me involved for at least a little bit are going to be pre-farming for Zillinan, who's coming out. She's pretty for both of our Geolady teams. She's the closest thing we're probably ever going to get to a sustained support with.
She seems like a really she seems like she's going to be a really, really powerful support. Not just I think she's going to be solid on field as well, but I think that her compatibility with every freaking team under the sun, except Dendro, is going to be really, really strong.
Yeah, that's
Like,
okay. Next patch you got Nahida, or the next half of the same patch you got Nahida.
I mean, she doesn't build around Dendro, like she doesn't get samples off of Dendro or anything. But the fact is that every Dendro team these days involves a Hydro and an Electro, so she probably still works with Dendro as well in a sense. Though I don't know whether or not you would choose to build a team like that. But
You can use a team like that when exploring. I do it sometimes with Navia Ninja team.
I'm hopeful that the benefits that she brings to Geo will allow me to use Ningguang more, because, like, fundamentally, no matter how much I go and use other characters and the many powers and useful attributes they have, like, my first love of carry in this game was Ningguang, and I still use her, like, literally every day playing this game, despite the fact she's a day one character, despite the fact she's a 4-star, despite the fact that she's the lowest attack carry in the game. I still keep using her, and I want her to be more powerful, and I'm looking for any retarded reason to bring her back to the force. So if Shalonen is that, then Shalonen is going to get built to the nines. So
that involves you clicking on this door.
Yes, it does. Let's get in there. Although this is as far as domains go, it seemed to me initially that they were leaning in the direction of domains being easier on average because they nerfed a bunch of the Mondstadt domains. But this particular domain, makes me think that actually, they just really want to trick you and then bully you. Because this domain warps me something wicked.
They got a lot of health in here.
Not only do they have a lot of health, but they hit like an absolute Mack truck if you don't behave very cautiously around the enemies in here.
I can finally get a crit damage hat from over.
Like, this is one of the few domains in which I still routinely use food.
Getting womboed. Don't do what I just did and run into the middle of all of them. Otherwise, you will get.
Yeah. Like, I do actually do that on my solo farming approach, but only like for an instant. Okay, so Vape at least seems to work on these acceptably. Largely because this is supposed to be a pyro-focused domain, and my major domain farming team has no pyro characters in it.
I'm gonna need to bust out the new Mondstadt food.
I don't have any of that new Mondstadt food. I should probably go and brew some.
Forget what all it takes.
It's like everything in it is common except the butter, I think.
Find it. I don't know where it is in the list. It's adventure food, not Healy food.
Who's special? Who has a specialty that cooks off it? Anybody?
Yinjin does. For special recipe, I don't think it has a special, but it does have. But it has standard adventurer bonus. Yinjin is after you activate a petrified tree or ley line outcropping, or open a treasure chest, restore 20% HP plus 1,200 to all party members. Lasts for 900 seconds.
Right. Now this is. I don't know when they added this one to the game. Do you?
I've never checked that vendor except by accident and saw new recipes there.
Well, the thing is that I had bought out all of the other recipes except for one and that one on that vendor. So I presume that it was added at a later stage than the last time that I checked that vendor, which was 2020.
I think it was added like in probably 5.0.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Manual cooking. Manual cooking is a thing.
Gotta do it 15 times.
I don't think I've got enough materials for that, to be honest. I don't.
But
Well, the fortunate thing is each one of these lasts 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes, right?
yes. Wait. 900 seconds? Yes.
Which is short enough for you to not realize it's fallen off, but long enough not to be actively frustrating. So it's sort of an optimal position for them to drain the maximum amount of money from your coffers, I guess.
I can avoid running in and getting myself wombo comboed again. Stretch a few things without having to bust out the Barbara. Healing stream token.
I'm sort of a little bit confused as to why they're married to this idea that you can't have food affect your co-op partner and just then restrict it to one food buff, but I guess they don't want people to troll other people with food buffs.
Overwrite their physical damage, but well, no reason they can't stack, I suppose. I mean, if you're doing co-op, you're already
Well, you
making the
don't
game
really
easier to
want
begin
stacking,
with.
otherwise I think that stacking, if you were to like have two people running a crit buffs, they would stack too constructively, I feel. But yeah, it's I sort of I do and don't understand why it's like this. I guess that if you were to frame everything in the context of think for a few minutes about just what the Hoyo fandom is like, then suddenly everything becomes clear.
Damage per screenshot?
Like, on one end, you've got the damage per screenshot people, and on the other end, you've got the most toxic fandom amongst any game that is not League of Legends, possibly. League of Legends is arguably worse. Arguably worse. I don't think League of Legends spend as much time with their hand on their penis as apparently the people in the Hoyo fandom do. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really grasp some of the strange behavior coming out of this fandom. My goodness, and it is certainly extremely strange. But yeah, I'm glad Vapor's working because my goodness, I was having no luck with Hyperbloom. This is not a stage that is built for Hyperbloom.
Whatever it is, they get some kind of passive damage aura when you light them on fire, but they seem to take a lot more damage. So I'm not sure if that's the vape or the what you call it, or the effect
Well,
they get from. What's Gold Chili do again?
I have no idea. I haven't built Xiangling yet.
Got flat defense on it.
I have Farina in the group. We can heal the old-fashioned way.
Oh, dang it, I left the domain on muscle memory.
The thing with Farina is that she is based on you taking damage as well as healing it up. So.
Oh, right. She does.
She is extremely powerful in terms of the amount of output you get, but the output does come at a cost. Anyway, where are we at here?
Our weeks. And going back in the domain.
Weeks. So I've had a pretty rough week at work. It's taken a lot of my time, and I've been doing a lot of... End of month is always rough for me because I hold a lot of stock. Aristeel does not hold a lot of stock. I hold a lot of stock, like a lot of stock. Maybe in dollar value, not necessarily more than Aristeel might hold. But in terms of the number of individual items and the anal retentive level at which the accounting department wants me to maintain control over exactly what is held, definitely I have a bigger problem on my hands. And unfortunately, this month, stock taking landed at a really awkward time for me, which involved me needing to do some extremely late nights. So I didn't really play much in the way of video games this week. However, we did in fact singularly fail to properly cover. Oh my goodness, this is going poorly. We did in fact singularly fail to cover the content of Star Rail properly last week, and for some reason we got all the way to the end of the show before I still remembered the significant part that we hadn't actually covered any information on, and that was the combat side of the event coming with the new patch, the actual war dance itself, which was a comparatively elaborate full story type event that I actually rather enjoyed, even if it does mainly involve Luca, who's not exactly my favorite character, generally speaking. But
he was very low on the totem pole before this event, and then this event helped him a lot.
I think that he probably has a points modifier with you because you are from a part of your country where everybody is perceived to be a hick. So you can probably relate on some level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it surprisingly enjoyable. Like this is where you really want to be going with combat based events, in my opinion. You've got to put them in context, especially if you're your game is a JRPG functionally. I know it's made in China, but it's definitely modeled as a JRPG. And if you're trying to sell a product, you need to know your market. You know your audience. And selling raw combat events to a JRPG audience is just not going to cut the mustard. So essentially they're not trying to do that. That would be a waste of everybody's time. So this is a very heavily framed in story type of event, and I feel like it served pretty well by that, generally speaking. I had a lot of sympathy for the position of Luca in the situation, and as a person who, like, it's been a fad among my subordinates recently to do the Myers-Briggs personality test. If you're familiar with that, are you familiar with it at all?
Yeah, we the teachers for health class actually in high school had us mess around with it.
Yeah, like it's not regarded as being scientific anymore. It was about 15 years ago. It's not anymore. Does that mean we're old? But it's one that has a lot of popular appeal because it neatly pigeonholes people into particular classes.
Yeah, it plays the
Which is
archetype game
appealing
pretty
to
hard.
it's appealing to the psyche. It's not remotely accurate as a result because people don't pigeonhole very easily in certain cases, especially not to the granularity that Myers-Briggs tends to intimate. But I was bullied into it by the staff because they were nagging me about the easiest way to get them to go away was to do it, and I scored the highest level of introversion of anybody on the staff. I got 99% in that parameter. I can't remember where I was going with this. Ultimately, yeah, that was the thing. I was trying to make a point based on that, and I can't remember where it was because, like I said, daylight savings, I started an hour later, which means I was drinking for an hour before the show.
I remember from high school that they made a big deal about me getting INFJ for some.
I have gotten INFJ in the past, back when I was fresh out of high school, but I'm not anymore. I don't get that score anymore. I get a different one. INFJs, people tend to make a big deal about INFJs because supposedly it's one of the rarer combos in existence, but judging by the fact that everybody seems to brag that they got INFJ and it's one of the rarer combos in existence, I find that highly suspicious that it's actually rare. Because the reality is, the problem with Myers-Briggs is that it's horribly unscientific, and the whole idea that INFJ would be rare is dependent on the idea that somebody is scientifically keeping records, and we know that that's not true. So, yeah, I think that the whole thing is kind of a scam. Like, what I refer to it as, which really offends a lot of people at work who think that it's the coolest thing ever, is I refer to it as HR astrology.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, back in the day, back in 15 years ago or so, the HR departments around the world took it real freaking seriously, man. Like,
Oh, before I forget, it wasn't because it was the rarest. I didn't know that part. With INFJ, they made a big deal about it.
it's not the rarest, but it's one of the rarer ones.
Yeah, I didn't know how rare any of them were, but they made a big deal about it in my high school when I scored it because it was the same personality type as Martin Luther King Jr. And my teachers,
I can't think of anybody in history that you would probably have more contempt for than Martin Luther King
yeah, he's
Jr.
I cannot think of somebody.
He's a rapist, a communist, a heretic. Like, he's everything that I would assume Aristotle utterly despises.
Yeah, I'm not a big MLK fan, but I'm not allowed to say that in Georgia because every other street in Atlanta is named after him.
Like, he is seriously one of the worst people to ever walk the earth, and I'm frankly astonished that you guys revere him as much as you do. It's really weird.
That there are a lot of commentary I would add to this, but we're on air.
It's I suppose it's not really about revering MLK Jr. It's more about the penalty for not revering him.
Yes.
But yeah, suffice to say, MLK Jr. was an awful, awful human being,
Probably light on his test too.
and you should probably do some research if your knee-jerk response is to respect him.
Well, if your knee jerk response is, "Oh, I thought he was a cool dude, civil rights and all that," then you grew up in America and went to American public education.
I guess they don't. I suppose the thing is that in New Zealand, of course, they don't teach about him because he's not relevant to our history at all. Maybe it's different if you've got like a high school indoctrination program behind you.
Yeah, we have the teachers union. They love MLK. They got a federal
Well, they're
holiday
all
now after him.
communists too.
They got a day off work because of a federal holiday for the guy. On his birthday.
Right, we've strayed far enough off topic that I can't remember what we were talking about or why.
Myers-Briggs.
I'm definitely not. Yeah, but I don't remember why I went there to begin with. I had a point that I was going to make, but I don't remember what it was.
Star Rail,
Anyway,
Luca.
So we're talking about Star Rail and Luca, and I don't really remember very much about all of that whole thing. But ultimately, when it comes to JRPGs, what you want to frame it in a way that if you're going to do a combat event that is based on just mechanics, and you want it to appeal to people who have come to you for the story, you need to embed that particular element in there quite deeply. So, to the extent that I sympathize with Luca, it is my inability to interact with unfamiliar things without expending a colossal amount of energy to do so. That is to say, introvert. And I am the sort of person who will quite happily stay at home forever. Luca, on the other hand, has been commissioned to be a Belobog's emissary to the rest of the galaxy, and I do not envy him that at all, because that sucks. Especially if you're the most hick person on your planet, which Luca arguably is. But yeah, I had a really enjoyable time with that. I felt like the story was told well. It was a really great framing device. There are various embedded mini stories within it that are all really enjoyable. Some of the conceits are a bit laughable, although that's sort of the point.
Yeah. Oh boy, the characters there. We foreshadowed it in the name of the show this week. But Wowo's gonna start slamming the door on her butt.
Well, I feel like this is the right place for Huo. Like, Huo has her story arc is played out by way of the Ghost Hunter storyline, and she's pretty much done for the most part after that. But what they have done basically is something that a lot of stories don't really take much time to do, and that's to show you not the character development but the developed character. Like
Okay.
at the end of everything, you've got to sort of prove that it mattered, and part of that is sort of Huohuo remaining the same person that she is, but coming into her own and sort of like her strengths and her place in the world and the way she reacts with the people around her. And for Huohuo particularly, that is very, very much centered around her interactions with her beloved Mr. Tail.
There is a text message you get from Wowo during this event that I think exemplifies her character story the best. I posted in live show chat. When Wowo very first gets involved, she sends you a text message that's sob. Mr. Tail was making a fuss about wanting to see you. Well, Mr. Tail said that he wasn't making a fuss, but he was.
So she's basically plenty willing now to completely undermine Mr. Tail.
Yeah, and
in public.
Yeah, and this is further cranked up with I gotta find it. Got the dang screenshot around here somewhere. Oh, that's Life is Hard, Tail Has to Hustle. That's the wrong screenshot.
Well, I mean, to be fair, life is hard. Tail does have to hustle.
I love that that's a dialogue option after the event. Got it around here somewhere. I'll find it. Bear with me. Oh, here it is. The namesake of this particular show. When Mr. Tail starts saying that he's gonna throw Wowo in the ring, just because he wants to see her get squished. Mr. Tail.
But yeah, so it's sort of like this is sort of Wowo end state character development. I mean, she's going to live for 3,000 years, so she's got plenty more room to develop. But it's sort of nice to see a more matured version of Wowo. And I have to say, like, you know, generally speaking, the anime community historically has considered Rin Tosaka to be the archetypal tsundere, but I think that Mr. Tail is possibly the most tsundere character in fiction.
Yeah, that boy really needs to start charging for his therapy sessions.
Like he for like an energy being with no way of relating to biological beings, he number one sure is a good psychotherapist, and number two seems to have a ridiculous amount of patience for and sympathy for the meat suits that he tends to interact with.
Unless you're Scott.
Unless you're Scott, but I mean, who cares about him? I mean, realistically though, he did go into the affair with Scott trying to find some good in him.
His reactions while he's giving therapy to Scott are so funny.
Despite the fact that he is a ancient jaded Heliobus, even he thought that Scott must have somewhere deep down some good in him. Mr. Tail was wrong.
Mr. Tail
Scott is
was
something else.
Mr. Tail was in fact flabbergasted that he was so wrong.
Yeah, and I think this is the sort of the plot archetype playing here basically is that despite the alien nature of Mr. Tail, I've actually forgotten what his actual name is at this point. He spending so much time with Huo, humans have pretty much rubbed off on him, and he probably thinks of himself more as a human, subconsciously than he does as a Heliobus at this point.
He is certainly more human than Scott, but that's not hard.
Scott is special. Well, realistically, the whole IPC is a bit special, and this event does continue to showcase that the sort of like the comic horror that is the IPC.
The giant corpomonger in the background that's just creeping along.
And it seems like Carmela is also emerging as a sort of like a fan favorite minor character.
Oh, Camerahead.
Yeah. Because she sort of like relentlessly but naively is constantly shilling for the IPC simply because she has no context of sort of, workers' rights or anything like that. Like,
Well,
I'm not a socialist, but there is room for workers to have rights, I think. Even though I wish I did live in a country which had at-will employment.
Sharky just whiffed. Hang on, Sharky's having a hard time.
But yeah, so Carmela was in fact popular enough that they had Carmela host Ling Sha's promo event for YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't watch. I don't watch any of the extra promo stuff. That's a healing bonus hat.
I think there are certain there's certain promo material that I think you should watch because a lot of it is deep lore. There's a lot of really important lore pieces, and I think particularly the ones regarding Firefly, I feel to some extent, if you're the sort of person like me, like, because it's become apparent that among the Hoyo properties, Star Rail is the one that I'm the most into. If you are the sort of person who is watching the promo material as it comes out, the sort of the drip of promo material for Firefly particularly was very important. Almost to sort of like, it's what Blizzard always thought that they were doing / were trying to do. The whole transmedia synergy thing is basically been accomplished by Hoyoverse and is in its sort of like mature form here. Because if you're watching the little bits and pieces of videos and trailers that come out about Firefly as they come out, it becomes it changes the sort of the flavor of your interactions with her, because at the same time as you've got the Trailblazer point of view, where you see how she is viewed by Trailblazer and how the Trailblazer has a intimation of sorts that Firefly is someone very, very important to her, even though she doesn't really understand why, because her memory is gone. And that's about the limit of your perception from the Trailblazer point of view. But the media accounts online give you a different point of view, which is it covers a lot of the material of who was Firefly before she became a Stellaron hunter. How did that all come to an end? What is the history of her and her people? Why is she the way she is? Type of thing. And there's a lot of that material, that background character lore for Firefly. It only really exists in that context. Similarly for Acheron, the entire story about what Acheron's people went through and who Acheron is as the last one of them, the only extant person who managed to persist past the end of that crisis, and all of the sort of they in a very short amount of time for like the Acheron material, they give a condensed version of a sort of a push-pull of victory and defeat that is very, very evocative of Honkai Third in terms of the type of story being told. Because Honkai Third basically, I don't know much about the story of Honkai Third. I know sort of like the first few chapters of it, but the rough story that you get in that first few chapters is one of the constant interplay between victory and defeat. Like every victory is just the path to another defeat type of thing. Like humanity never really prevails. They're always on the brink of destruction, and many times in the past they fell over that brink because there's no ultimate victory against the Honkai. There's just delaying the inevitable. And that's sort of the setting for Honkai Third. And Acheron's backstory carries a lot of that in connotation and subtext. And which is of course the point, because she is the representative of Raiden Mei in the Honkai verse, for the Honkai Star Rail part of the Honkai verse. So and a lot of that stuff, like, you never really get any of it in the game itself. It's all of that transmedia synergy stuff. All of these extremely elaborate, in some cases, animations. And some of them are purely for fun. Like the one with Sushang and Guinaifen just putting on a play for the people on the Shansho Lofu. That's just for fun. But there's also a lot of deep lore in there as well. So I think it's really worth consuming some of that material. Oh, there's still heaps in there that I haven't gone through myself, particularly for some of the older characters, like the backstory for Danheng and for Jingyuan, and that I haven't really looked at it in detail. But it's all there. I think that it's a relatively worthwhile way to spend some time if and only if you are really into the Star Rail lore. It's of no value to you whatsoever if you just play it, cursorily. And you can understand the story perfectly well without it, but there's more depth and nuance to it if you know all of this other stuff. And there is definitely hundreds of thousands of dollars have gone into it too. They definitely care about it as a storytelling tool and as a
Your
marketing
stash is
promotional
empty.
tool. Oh no. It's because Klee keeps dying. Klee, you're not robust enough for this. I don't know how I can fix that though. It feels like every time I go in there, I start taking damage no matter what I'm doing. I think that Farina is basically the problem here.
Yeah, I think
She's way too taxing on hit points. Let's see.
get another
Don't
Hydro, and
I guess Mona will do the trick. My Mona's not leveled, so her impact numbers wise is going to be poor, but the Hydro will still work.
otherwise our vapes are not going to be doing that much.
Yeah, so anyway, the story event for Luca I felt was quite good. I felt the main story was good. I felt the side stories were good.
I liked his.
It's generally good.
For Luca himself, I really like that they followed up on his character story with Svarog.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't drop that as well. Like, it really makes sense for them to be continuing that.
Boba.
And they don't just carry on the Svarog part either. They also continue to make hay out of the
Oh, the little girl.
the little girl, which is obviously, even if it seems like a trivial thing from a like a cynical gamer perspective, the the effect that something like that would have on an actual person, on their actual character, compared to the way you might treat it as, oh, this is just if you're reading in a storybook, it's one thing that happened in one place at one time to one person. But that sort of event, like, if you were to go through it yourself, it would define a lot about who you were as a person, I think. And so it really makes sense for them to continue to have that carry forward with storytelling involving Luca.
Got an idea.
Oh boy. Bringing Mona was a terrible idea because she's way too fragile for this crap. So I don't really want to go for Barbara, but it's going to be a Barbara. It's going to be a Barbara maneuver, I think. That's what we're looking at here. Oh no, it's an Aristeel plan. Everything is terrible. Or I could try sucrose. It's another way to get Drew. We'll try that just for the sake of trying it out.
That'll work. We can't.
Wait, what are we doing?
Not clean. Hi, Barbara.
Oh, you're bringing it Barbara. Okay, let's see. It might work better. Especially we might come out with at least a reasonable amount of health for once. Oh, yeah. So I liked the event. I felt like the ending was a little bit too Disney in some ways. And as much as we're going to spoil an event of some only trivial value to the story at large, I do feel like local pyro application. Yes. But I feel like I feel like it was in some ways the right ending. Like I would have been sort of a bit perturbed if they just let Luca win in the end, because Luca is just a kid basically. And while it's true Yanqing isn't particularly old, even relative to the Xianzhou either, he has devoted his life to martial training, unlike Luca, who's just sort of, you know, a hobbyist boxer who does a lot of brawling and that, but he's not like a soldier by profession the way Yanqing is. It's
Slower, but way safer.
yeah. It's I feel like it, generally speaking, as an event, it rates pretty highly. I don't think it has. I didn't feel like it had quite the level of just sheer joy that the ghost hunting one does. But as events go, I feel like it was very, very solid.
Yeah, I think it shined when it focused on its little character moments and quirks of its mechanical story contrivances, which were so dumb they were funny, with Luca's hallucinations.
Yeah, like that was an amusing way of framing that you've got to put enemies in there somehow, right?
Yeah, we do not have time to make new bosses specifically for this event. We already spent a bunch of dev time making them for the Fei Zhao section of the main story. So he's just having delusions.
He do be that way, yep.
And so you're not fighting Topaz, you're fighting Cocolia. You're not fighting Boot Hill, you're fighting the Shadow of Death as he approaches the gun.
Yeah, it was. I liked the way it was done. Like it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but it was not so tongue in cheek that you couldn't see what the point was. Like it was definitely. I felt like it was. I felt like it was noticeably lampshading the fact that, you know, we're gonna have to recycle some models, right? This is just the way it is, and I know this, and you know this, so together we're going to just not talk about it. That was
Yeah.
the vibe that I got.
Yeah.
I realistically, I think they
Bad
probably could have
sense.
just got away with not really talking about it. No, that one might actually be usable. It's not a bad sans as far as defense sans go. But yeah, I liked it generally, and I like the side stories. I thought it was interesting that they put the side story in about the monastery because, well, I mean, sometimes it is refreshing, I have to admit, when they decide to go all in on like the sometimes enemies are just evil, just conventionally evil. Um, like for instance, I haven't watched any of it myself, but it's been really popular this year. The Freerin anime.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes.
It's had ongoing popularity, and it seems like it's the sort of level of popularity that's going to carry through to another season after this. But the thing that has attracted criticism for recently from exactly the sort of people that you want to be mad at it is that a lot of people are very unhappy that the demons are bad, because Freerin has a very, apparently I haven't watched it myself. Freerin has a very sort of like old worldy, black and white perception that demons are just bad and so you kill them.
Yeah.
That's all that they're good for. Everything that they do that tries to gain sympathy from you is just a scheme. And the story bears this out
I'm curious about
repeatedly.
something with this one because we're not procking the fire effect on these guys without enough pyro. So what if we just bring the Geo ladies and see how that goes when I have a battery?
I mean, we can do the Geo ladies. We'll see how that goes. I don't have a problem with that. I'll just go and patch up on what we've got left to patch before we do. But yeah, a lot of people are very upset that the demons are bad and not humanized and not treated like they're actually secretly good. And I think there's actually a lot of value to that in a
Yeah,
certain sense.
it it
Because the reality is that there are things in this world that are bad, and not everything is just a point of view. And this is something that's really become lost in the modern era.
yeah, going all the way back to Tolkien, as talking last 100 years, until relatively recently, almost every fantasy setting has one race that is
Always chaotic evil.
where every single member is always chaotic evil, or nearly every single member.
But Aristiel, das Oasis. So in this case, basically the Borisin who don't really mesh with the we forgot to bring an elemental applicator
No,
of
we got
fission.
Barb.
Really, you think it's enough?
Uh,
I mean, it's certainly working, but very slowly and quite safely.
I mean, hang on, I gotta get the song back. I ran out of music. Pulled a Robin on me.
But yeah, I'm willing to forgive it in this case, because when it comes to the Borisin of the monastery who've decided to eschew their bloodthirsty ways, they spend a lot of time emphasizing just how hard they have to strive against their own character to even maintain a modicum of control.
Yeah, want to
Like
try
they
crit damage hat?
suffer for that. What? You got
Oh,
a crit damage?
crit
I
damage.
wonder what that feels like.
Oh, it's got double flats and energy reach.
That do be the way it is, yo.
Let's uh, let's try Hyper Bloom with the shuttlecock and see if that works better. Because I've done Hyper Bloom in here before and it seemed to work.
I usually do Hyper Bloom in here. The problem is the level of fragility and the fact that my Hyper Bloom team uses Farina, therefore you bleed out
Well,
rapidly.
when I'm supporting your Hyper Bloom, I bring Barbara in the.
Right. Well, I'll bring Yomiko then. But yeah, so that I feel like it's all right, because they lead you through a pretty lengthy amount of storytelling showcasing that it is definitely in their nature. It is definitely in their nature to be bloodthirsty, which is the difference, right? Like, modern liberalism states that nobody has a nature, everybody is a blank slate. So there is nobody who is bad or good. Nobody has a culture that leads them down the wrong path. Every culture is equal.
Well, it reminds me a lot of before Correa went full TDS and super mega Trump tard or anti Trump tard and super mega Mormon tard.
Well, he's always been super mega Mormon tart.
Yeah, but he wrote Earl Harbinger. And Earl Harbinger kind of personified this the best that I've seen of a character that has to really struggle against the nature of something that they've become that is always chaotic evil.
Yeah,
I,
and I think I'm willing to accept it in that context. What I don't like is like, I suppose the contemporary example is
Animo
Rings of
damage
Power.
bonus.
Animo.
I think this is our best team so far.
I think the contemporary example that's the most that's the most egregious is the modern example of the Rings of Power orcs with their families. All they want is to lead a happy and peaceful life with their wife and child, because that's definitely what Tolkien orcs are like, right?
I'm pretty sure
Right, bruh?
they spawn out of mud, don't they? I don't think there are any
No,
natural born orcs.
that's there are natural born orcs. Urukai are not natural born. They're a modified version of orc that is not natural.
Okay.
But orcs are not natural in the sort of like classical philosophical sense. They are natural in the sense that they are something that occur as a result of a natural process. But they are considered to be unnatural in the Platonic Aristotelian sense, because they are a distorted version of an elf. But in this case, you've got sort of like they try and make you sympathize with orcs in Rings of Power, and that's nonsense as far as the Tolkien setting is concerned. And in this case, you're not sympathizing with the Borisin because they are, victims of circumstance. You're sympathizing with them because they have put the hard yards in to conquer their nature and to isolate themselves from temptation in such a way that will permit them to be able to live peacefully, knowing the cost, knowing that nobody will trust them, knowing that their role in the universe is as a bloodthirsty hunter, but choosing another path simply because they believe it is more moral to do so, that makes them laudable, as opposed to the modernist version of telling the same story, which is just that, oh, well, everybody is actually equal, and whether or not behavior is evil is just a matter of point of view.
If it was an American writer, it would just be a random Borison, no monastery, no sequestering themselves away from society and people and temptations. It would just be a random one with his family that uh, that you needed to feel sympathy for because hey, look, he has a wife. You wish you had a wife. Something.
It's the cops are keeping him down, or something.
Yeah, Cloud Knights being too
Cloud
fuzz.
Knight's oppressing him.
Yeah, being too fuzz to the Borison. Barbara's pulling a Robin.
This does seem to be the most stable approach, although, as usual, it avoids the domain bonus entirely.
Nahida's just that good.
Elemental Mastery.
Just think, when we get our Zalonans, maybe when one of us brings Zalon into these domains, we can finally give Barbara a break. She can finally take a rest.
Well, it depends on how big that heal is in practice.
Yeah. But there's hope for Barbara. She may get a few days off. I don't think there's any retiring Barbara.
Well, it's those launch 4 stars, man. They're just a cut above. Like none of them have like the sort of numbers that you see on new and recent up to date characters. But in terms of just the sort of like their raw utility, they're just a cut above everything that's been put in the game since.
Yeah, like Barbara can make the whole team immortal and apply Hydra the entire time. And I was standing there taking the Wombo combo, it just didn't matter. Because Barbara. I don't
I
even
guess
think.
if you're running on-field Shallonen, presumably you could use the black set as well, right?
Yeah. If you were going for the on-field crit rate build, or yeah, the set functionally lets you bypass crit rate requirements on a netline character, and just go straight for crit damage, and whatever your scaling set is.
Anyway, yeah. So that event overall was pretty solid, and they have absolutely gone almost comically out of their way to ensure that you're not going to be bracketed by your gacha luck.
No, the two trial characters they allow you to take can pretty much handle any chapter, even the challenge chapters.
Yeah, it's there was basically nothing in there that, given a reasonable understanding of the mechanics, not even a deep understanding, a reasonable understanding of mechanics of combat.
I
You
wouldn't
can
even say
beat
reasonable.
every
You
single
just
challenge.
know what it does vaguely. Well, you'll get through it. Took a cursory glance at the text window, and you'll get
And
through it.
honestly, I'm fine with that. Like, this is the problem I have with events in Genshin, like the current event. The current event, I just can't do it. My roster doesn't accommodate that. They
Like,
have nerfed the crap out of the higher characters to the point where they can't. Like, if you're doing max level event, don't offer a sub max level, like, whatchamacallit, Hell Beast as your higher character. That's not helpful. That's not going to improve anybody's experience. That's not even good enough to do the challenge.
yeah,
It's a bad decision. Don't do it.
I don't think they should have
Just
abandoned difficult content entirely, but keep that crap relegated, like the monthly long Spiral Abyss rotation.
well, the thing is that the problem is that they, for the longest time, they slept on difficult content entirely. There's
Yeah.
no reason they can't put all the hard crap in Imaginarium Theatre and Spiral Abyss. No reason whatsoever. That's where those people who love that stuff, who want to metagame that stuff, who want to theorycraft that stuff, they hang out in there. That's what they're interested in. The rest of us who want to pull for characters they think are cool, to do the content and exploration and to participate in the story, they don't want to get bullied by your crappy events that are just, well, you better have pulled these characters or you basically can't participate. And
Well,
in the case of Genshin, because Genshin's complexity has sort of like extended over time, it's even worse because, like, the second level I felt was the worst. If you do not have an ultra efficient Hyper Bloom archetype, you can't do it. You need Nahida. It's outrageously difficult without Nahida. And I
okay.
couldn't do it. I couldn't even do the second rank. It was too hard for me.
Hold hands.
It's they have set it up in such a way that you have to spend an outrageous amount of time for a very pitiful reward, because the complexity of the mechanics that they require you to exploit is so ridiculously high.
The only one of these type of events that I didn't mind at all was back around when we started coming, but it was all trial characters. You could only use the trial characters, so I
Yeah.
didn't have to
And
worry about it.
well, that means it's a question of accessibility, right? At that point, it becomes a puzzle to solve. Like, if you either understand how these pieces work together and can do the puzzle, or you don't understand and you can't do the puzzle. Those are the only options left on the table. In the case of the ones that they've had since then, it's always been, I hope you pulled enough good characters for this archetype, because otherwise you're completely buggered.
Also, you should totally go at least unlock Imaginarium Theater at some point and just set up some supports so I can steal your Florinda, your Ningguang.
Man, I don't have a problem. I guess I could do that. I don't understand why you'd want to steal a Ningguang, though.
Because you're only allowed 3 elements every week. I finally did it this week. So we can springboard off to talk briefly about what it is, because neither one of us had a clue. So I stuck my face in there, and basically it is simulated universe where every time you do a battle, you get a certain number of points, and you can spend these points on recruiting more characters to bring in, and you can choose a difficulty for how many floor sets you want to do. You don't run around in it; you just pick cards, and you just load into one battle arena for one combat section on. But you're only allowed to use any given character twice, and you need to bring like 12, 14, and 16 in from easy, normal, and hard difficulty on the way up. But you're only allowed characters of the elements that are assigned that particular monthly cycle. And it seems to always be 3 elements. So this week it's Hydro, Dendro, and Pyro. Going to be playing on Emily's banner. And the characters have to be level 60 at least. And sometimes you just don't have characters of that. I can't even attempt hard mode because I don't have 16 Pyro, Dendro, and Hydro characters leveled up to over level 60.
Yeah, I saw a lot of complaining about that. Like, it's not accessible to most people. But, you know, I know that there's going to be some whatchamacallit, Primogems in there. But, I mean, I'm perfectly all right with it. Like, I don't do Spiral Abyss. I don't really care that I can't do Spiral Abyss because my teams aren't meta. I'm not really that bothered about that. I'm really bothered when it's limited time events because it's basically them mocking me in real time. Haha, you can't compete.
Oh, I left
When
the
it's
domain.
just in-game content that I don't participate in, then oh well, that's just the way it is. I guess I'm not that bothered by it. I mean, I wasn't that bothered by it in a Star Rail because I couldn't do in-game content. Now I can do in-game content, and I, work hard to balance my teams and gear them up as much as I can, given my abysmal luck to participate in that stuff. And I get as many Stellar Jade as I can, and I move on with my life. That's just the way it is. But in the case of Genshin, it's like this is a limited time event that is given under the sort of the
Assumption you've been
surface
playing nonstop
appearance
from day
of
one, leveling up characters and pulling on
well,
banners.
that's all the stuff that's under the surface, but they present it as though anybody could participate, but that's just not true.
Yeah, they're
If you
gonna.
don't have a roster that's really matured and not just matured, but like coherent with the meta as it exists today, you have no place in that event.
Like,
It's not for you.
you can probably hodgepodge something together, but you're going to be sitting there running around spending resources instead of going completely positive during the event. That you'll probably spend in the resources you get from the event to make it so you can get all the rewards. If you do
Well, I mean,
hodgepodge,
that was the problem for me though, right? Like I spent too much time attempting, and I was not having. It was the same thing that happened last time they did one of these combat events, and I'm a slow learner, so it goes the same way every time. That I spend ages trying to get past a challenge that I just don't have the roster that's very well suited for it, and it's like, well, I can smell that it's just barely within reach to get these Primogems, but I'm going to be here for another hour trying to find the combination that will get it for me, and I hate every second of it. And that's not what I want to experience in my leisure time. Hatred of what I'm doing. That's not where I want to be.
if that kind of just barely out of reach thing isn't on a time limited event, I actually don't mind it at all. It's when they put a
Well, yeah,
time limit
because
on it.
that's just aspirational, right?
Yeah.
If it's there but you can't get it
Well,
yet, it's aspirational.
well,
But this is like you don't have this now, so you can get it never.
yeah. For some reason, I just feel more motivated to try it, keep trying, beat my head against it, even if just waiting a few more days would get it for me. If as long as the event isn't on a timer, because it doesn't feel like an obligation then. It doesn't feel like a job or a chore.
Yeah, they're nagging you. But yeah, they keep doing this, and what's more is I've noticed that they generally don't ask about these events in the surveys because
Uh,
I'm really curious as to how many people actually like them
yeah, I
because
can.
they don't seem very likable to me. At best, they're dull, but mostly they feel like I'm being bullied
Well,
because I don't have a way of dealing with the situation.
this feels very much like look, our dev team just spent forever working on that land, and we got a new story patch coming out, and we already did one event this patch cycle, and we've got to get the new story event done. Here's some filler to tide you over and give you some premium. Got to get to
Yeah,
work on
well,
the
I
other
mean
stuff.
that's for those clowns who have already 100% in that land, but some of us have jobs.
Yeah, I haven't 100% playing ZZZ.
Yeah, I'm at like sort of like I've got like my best is at like 60 odd percent, and then there's like one at 20, at one at 40. Like that's all I've got.
That's terrible.
Hats are usually terrible. What have I
Okay.
got this time? I've another elemental mastery goblet. Well, at least it's a goblet. Maybe there's somebody somewhere wants elemental mastery. Maybe if I pull Nahida, I can use it.
Yeah. I
Or do you
haven't.
put an elemental mastery goblet on Nahida? Is that a thing?
I think you still do. Although she wouldn't.
So
Say,
useless.
she wouldn't say no to an elemental master goblet.
I know Nahida people are like, oh, elemental mastery, elemental mastery. I
Well,
don't
yeah,
really
it's
use it on
because
any of my characters.
it's
So.
because elemental mastery directly contributes to every single one of our other stats. She just turns elemental mastery into bonus damage, bonus crit rate, bonus crit damage.
Anyway, since we're talking about Genshin, the other thing I did in Genshin this week was I did the Hot Spring Peoples story quest.
Okay.
So this story quest was sort of, how do I say? Everything about the story quest was sort of like this is Dawn Trail done correctly.
Yeah, it's
So
also why Redditors are retarded.
I don't know anything about Redditors because the only time I spend on Reddit is looking at cute pictures of Blue Archive characters.
Oh, I meant
Pretty much the only use I
I
have for
meant
Reddit.
the Sumeru people that show up at the quest.
Oh,
I just
I
assume
see.
I just assume
Fedora.
that
I think of I think of them as fedoras.
yeah. So whenever I see an academia type acting like an academia type, I just assume this is what Reddit is like.
Well, the thing is that they're not really real academics don't act like that. Like real academics act like real academics these days are indistinguishable from what you in America would consider the political activist class. Like the sort of the classical pie in the sky academic who's completely disconnected from reality, that doesn't actually exist anymore for the most part. Those people have all converted into political activists. But the the quest was sort of like everything that Dawn Trail wanted to be but wasn't. That's been my impression of it. So at the most sort of structural level, this is sort of like your deep sort of connection opportunity with the people of the Springs culture and sort of like their role in Netland as sort of like the guide characters, the joyful hosts of tourists, and their sort of whims to behave recklessly in Netland as they are sightseeing around the place and that type of thing. It's like it's a very it's very culturally engaged with the people of the Springs in certain ways, and it goes down a couple of different routes to show both the good and bad sides of that type of thing. So exactly what Dawn Trail thought it was doing on Wuk LMAO's grand tour, right? And then when it gets into the second part of the story, where Mualani becomes involved, then it's very much engaged with sort of like the sort of friendship, learning to trust your companions, getting through trials together, finding out the true value of the journey type of thing. All of these really well-worn, old, tired tropes, but executed to perfection. Like there's not anything wrong with it. Everything about the way they told that story, I felt it was paced well. The emotional tone was just right. It was extremely emotionally satisfying to go through the whole process and complete it. You don't learn a lot about necessarily Mualani personally, but you learn a lot about the attitude that is considered laudable among her people, the way that you should act to be a good person of the Springs type of thing.
You should have let that Redditor get fried.
Maybe, but the thing is that even though he bucked what he should have been doing the entire time, like as a scientist, I do sort of understand that temptation to go a little bit too far just to try and reach for the last discovery, because maybe it's just over the next hill. Maybe you'll get there. And the fact is that at the end, he got to where he should be. And so it's a very sort of classical Disney-esque story in a lot of ways, but for all of that, it was emotionally satisfying. They did the story correctly. And if you look at the Wuk LMAO journey, let's say, there's nothing complicated about that story. It should have been simple. It should have been easy to do well. The fact that they failed is a catastrophic failing on the part of the people telling the story. It's not because the story was too hard and they fell short. It's the story was easy, but they were just that bad at telling it. And I feel like Netland has been the opposite throughout. While it is not one contiguous story in the sense that of the Wuk LMAO journey in her ascension to being in charge of the poor people of that nation, who now are going to be lumbered with this complete incompetent as their leader until she manages to cark it doing something stupid. It's this story might be more piecemeal than that, but it is totally focused on being a pitch perfect, emotionally satisfying execution of those sort of simple classic adventures and comradeship stories.
And
And I feel like that particular one, the People of the Springs one, just does it really well. Like, I sat down in the afternoon when I had a bit of time, and I just did that story. I did the whole thing. I think I did the whole thing at a stretch. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I did the first part and then the second part. Either way, I just sat down and did the story, and the whole thing, it came together quite nicely. Had a beginning and a middle and an end. And all of the things that were opened up were dealt with the way they should have been dealt with. There were no sort of like weird abnormalities in the story, no bizarre things that totally missed tone for no reason, no really outrageously glaring plot holes that desperately needed to be addressed because they'd accidentally drawn attention to them and now we need an explanation. Like, it was just a simple story told well.
yeah, it's the biggest
And
thing it's got
that's
over Dontrell, I think, is the fact that these side stories that explain more about the people of the area are not bolted to the main story. There's no Wuk LMAO. That's the big obvious event.
that
But
if this story had been embedded in the main plot, it would have ruined the pacing utterly.
like Dontrell did.
Yes, exactly like Dawn Trail did. Like, this story, taken on its own, is better than any of the individual stories embedded in Dawn Trail, in my opinion. But taken on its own, it works. If they had forced you to do this, it would have been like an Inazuma suddenly going on a date with Yoimiya for no reason.
Yeah, but we can still get to know the people of the land on our own time. We can go over there and explore more of the tribes we want to, and get the lore and the backstory and the stories we want at the pace we want. You don't have to force feed the culture down to us through the MSQ. Just have a little introduction with Kachina at the beginning. This is what Natlan is. This is how we do things. Here's a brief little bit at the beginning. Okay, now let's go do tournament arc.
Yeah, like, and the thing is, I don't think most people hit fatigue with Dawn Trail in the first tribe. Like, let's say you went to the llama people first. I can't use whatever else Ari might want to call them on YouTube. But the let's say you went to them first. If that was the first time you were introduced to the culture of Taral, and that was the only time that they forced you to go through learning what their culture was like, I think most people would have shrugged and said, okay, that was a thing that happened. And that would have been the end of it. But no, they force you to go through the introduction with Kachina over and over and over and over again in Dawn Trail.
Yeah, and they do a much better job in Genshin as well, because when they introduce these tribes and their side stories, because they're not bolted onto the main story to give them the anchor and the hook to interest players, they're bolted onto characters. So we know some of the people in the tribe from the main story. Like, you go to the springs in the main story and go hang out in the hot springs.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious, morbidly curious almost, to see what they do with the Geo people in the next patch, because it seemed, in retrospect, having done, I haven't done the Canopy people. I have done the Springs people, and I've done what is in the game currently for the Geo people. But after having done the Springs people, what they did do for the Geo people seems like a mistake. It seems like an incorrect decision in some way. In some ways, if it's really lengthy, long enough to forget the sort of the weird, janky early part, which just seems like a bunch of strange fetch quests at the start, like, the initial quest that leads you into the real meat of the People of the Springs quest. If they have as much meat to follow up in the next patch, then that's perfectly all right. But if you compare those two side by side, they're not the same thing at all, not the same organism. So yeah, it was a little bit concerning to me after having done the People of the Springs one, just how flat the Geo one felt, because it's not finished. And I don't know if it was necessarily a good idea to introduce it at the start.
Yeah,
Maybe they felt like, on balance, it was a better idea,
I've already forgotten
so that
everything
there
that
was
happened in
something there.
those two intro quests.
It's mostly about a little girl you never meet.
Yeah, I don't
There's a
remember
lot of odd
any.
stuff in there.
I only remember the broadest of broad strokes about it because they're so short and they don't tie into anything, and it's so long until we're gonna get it from the point they were introduced. I did the Geo people second. I did the
I
Springs
did them
people.
first. That was the first thing I did.
Yeah.
And and so now it's just sort of like this sort of weird wart on the rest of the game, where it's like, yeah, it didn't really go anywhere.
Eh.
I don't really know what's going on there. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm supposed to care about what chapter 3 will contain. Yeah, so there's lots of jank things about it. And so in uh, in aid of saying that, I don't think that Hoyo are perfect by default. But if you look at, what was presented to us by the mediocrity at best that is Dawn Trail, and then, if you dare, look at the other type of nihilistic slop the rest of the Western games industry has been doling out on a regular basis, and then compare it with what Hoyo's been offering patch over patch in all of their three major headliner games, like, it's the Hoyo fans that are eating good if they have the mind to appreciate it.
I'm not sure they do. I think all
They
they can
don't.
think, the only thing they seem to be able to think about is what object goes in what orifice.
A lot of them don't, because they are obsessed with degeneracy. But generally, what I'm saying in here is that, because Hoyo have taken a very strategic approach to what they listen to from the player base and what they don't, you've got generally a better product. Like, we eating good as far as, like, latest patch from Genshin, latest patch from Starro, latest patch from ZZZ. We're eating good content, good food, good
Yeah.
stuff to chew on. Like, I don't even feel the need to play other games right now, because when I look at the next game down the ledger, it's Final Fantasy, and they haven't even given me a hint that they're going to give me anything good yet. So I'm I'm in this position. Well, yes, but I'm satisfied. I have more than enough gaming to fill my time, and they aren't enamored of this deeply nihilistic, self-destructive urge that most of the Western devs seem to have. Like, if you look at the tone of the games that are coming out, the games that are part of what my friend has been calling the great floppening.
Oh, the total
The like
collapse of the Ubisoft game and other Western
Yeah,
studios.
Ubisoft is collapsing. The supposedly big name Dustborn collapsed horribly. The Concord collapsed. All of these are based on a combination of having forgotten that you're making games for an audience, and just sort of like the sheer nihilism of the thing. Like, would there be any charm whatsoever to the People of the Springs storyline in Genshin if it was not connected to the aspirational idea that people can learn to be better people, can learn to value more important things rather than sort of like material, temporal things that don't last? If you do not have any aspiration to virtue, you can't appreciate a storyline like that. No Western storylines are told like that anymore. They're all told as deeply cynical, deeply nihilistic tie-ins to the temporariness of things making things pointless, rather than temporariness of things making them precious.
Yeah. So yeah, that's two with the
Also,
hoit.
hello.
Fern is here.
Fern.
Yes.
And
Hello.
he dived in on that, dived in on my latest meandering tirade with no idea what we were talking about.
Yeah, I can pick up pretty well on most of that.
Yeah, we were going
Well,
over the Hoyo games.
the reason why I say it like that is because I think, well, realistically, Fern should be able to pick on up on it because it's something that's very core to what's valuable about the human experience, I think, and that this particular aspect of things has been devalued in the entertainment industry of the West at large lately. And when we're relying on Chinese communists to upkeep the virtue of human nature, like
Something went wrong.
where have we gone? Where have we gone as a people?
On the other side of things, and we'll just stick with Ubisoft for the moment, is if you've played anything by Ubisoft over the last decade, it's all just soulless copy paste, designed by committee rubbish. You played one game, you played them all.
Because they look at people as metrics now. They don't think about what people will feel about their stories, just how many people can be engaged by them. And when you calculate,
you're a wallet.
like they are sort of simultaneously combining cold machine metrics with ideological presupposition. And that's the only way that you can get something like the new Assassin's Creed, right? They actually think that people will be enamored of the idea of playing a sociopathic black man butchering Japanese people. Because it aligns with, number one, their metrics, number two, their ideology. They haven't thought about how people who have actual opinions, ideas, and emotions will feel about any of this content. That never even occurred to them.
Yeah. So that
to be fair, they are the French. You can only expect so much from a Frenchman.
I don't expect anything from the French except for wine baguettes and sexual degeneracy.
I mean, you
baguettes are pretty good though.
Olympics, I suppose.
Like as far as breads go, there's a lot of value to a baguette, especially if you've got garlic butter.
Baguettes are awesome. Yes.
We can go visit Baguette in Fontaine. I think he's in Fontaine.
Oui, Baguette.
There's a dog somewhere in Fontaine City just named Baguette.
It is Fantasy France. Anyway,
so to briefly cover the rest of what I had, the Blue Archive is currently doing a new event which is extremely silly because Gehenna are going on a field trip to Hyakuhyako, and Hyakuhyako are totally unprepared for that because it seems to be most of Gehenna that are going, meaning that both the Hot Springs Development Club and the Gourmet Research Club are also going on the field trip. And this makes a big mess.
Yeah. That's not going to end well for anybody. Well, it's going to...
Yeah, the new game mode is also coming out. So the story is relatively simple and relatively good if you I think that the story is one that you resonate more with if you are the type of person like Umika, who is the lead character for the story, who is an overplanner who can't ever seem to quite get her plans to go the way they're supposed to.
I found Baguette.
Always with the best of intentions, but never with her plans surviving contact with the enemy. The enemy in this case being the average Gehenna student. But the new game mode is coming out as well, which is basically the new game mode is, I suppose you could liken it to Tower of Luna for a Blue Archive in the sense that it has a gajillion floors to it, but the floors are all roughly the same in the sense that they are all basically difficulty levels of a particular boss. And this boss is the most elaborate boss in the game in various ways. And you bring a team of 6 strikers, 4 supports to do it. So, generally speaking, most people don't manage to get beyond about floor 30. And there's like 100 of them. So, yeah. Anyway, it's not quite out yet, and I don't know what the story is behind it because the story is also not out yet. But so yeah, waiting to see on that. I won't say anything at this stage on ZZZ because I haven't had time to really dig in too much of the story. I've done a little bit of the start of it, but not very much. And I blew a retarded amount of resources pulling for Caesar because Caesar came out, and I originally was not interested in pulling her because I generally think that the jack of all trades character is just not a safe investment in a lot of ways, because they are the jack of all trades characters are always the first to be power crept. But
Yeah.
I just enjoyed her playstyle. Like when I played the demo, it's like I actually really like this. This is fun. This is more fun than I'm having with the other characters.
You had
So-
a Jane moment that I had with her.
I don't know. I don't know how you felt about Jane exactly, but I did definitely enjoy the demo of Caesar, and I felt like the playstyle was what I actually really wanted to be able to do in the game. That is to say, not constantly just be sort of autistically dodging and then flailing away to do damage, but to be able to sort of definitively and deliberately tank things. That appealed to me. So I blew resources on that and got completely screwed by the gacha. So
Grace's C2
I'm
is
very-
no joke. That looks really good.
I do have Grace C. I have now got 3 copies of Grace. So yeah, the gacha is bullying me and just giving me the same 5-star over and over and over and over. But that third copy of Grace does basically amplify that team's power by a full 8% across the board, which is nothing to sneeze at. But it does mean that I still have a very narrow roster. But yeah, now I've got Caesar to act as an anchor to a new team, which I'll probably build around the characters from Sons of Caledon, who all seem like fun characters for the most part.
They are a ton of fun when you get to the story. They are
I
all just the best little retards in their own unique ways.
yeah, all of them seem to be very specifically dumb in a specific way.
Yeah,
They're all savant-like at one thing and just retards at everything else.
that do be how
But,
they do.
Yeah, and it sort of at this point it makes sense that Billy was one of their champions.
Yeah, I was humming and hawing about pulling for him, but the story sold me on Bernice.
Yeah, Bernice is very fun, but she is also probably would be a card-carrying psychopath in any other setting. Like she's a slightly more socially constructive Harley Quinn at this point,
I didn't.
who likes fire altogether too much.
I linked Fern the whole cutscene. I didn't link it to you because I didn't want to spoil it for you. You haven't got to it yet. But there's one cutscene that features Bernice in the main story, when she's riding around on a motorcycle, and when you get to that scene, that whole scene sold Bernice to me.
I have seen the sort of, I suppose, the characteristic scene that I've seen of Bernice is her interaction with the cat Theron.
Yeah, it's that scene. So warm.
She's not normal, but none of them are.
It is the most
I guess that's
appropriate
the gist of it.
response to a furry that I've ever seen.
Crack out
I
the
feel like-
flamethrowers.
Despite the fact that the furry was the antagonist, I feel like the furry was significantly more traumatized by the exchange.
Yes. I posted it in mobile games. I will post the GIF again. In fact, if I just search GIF Bernice, it'll probably have it. And yes,
Right.
they did name
Anyway.
the fire character Bernice.
With BURN, not BERN.
Yes. There you go. Yep, like in the top 5 results.
But yeah, so I'll probably leave my week there at that point, and we've been going for an hour and a half now, I think, by my reckoning, because I didn't reckon on daylight savings time. But yeah, it's time for a break because my bladder says it is.
Yep, we will take a break. When we come back, we will tag to my week, I guess. I will want to cover mostly the mechanical stuff. Oh, right, Fern's back. I had not accounted Fern into planning. Okay, yeah, so we can figure out what Fern's been doing and why he missed the first half of the show, because we don't even know. You will find out at the same time as us.
Work happened. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always work.
And yeah, we'll be right back. Wasn't copyrighted. I would play some Muzak, but we'll get to it. Anyway, I'm trying to find the break screen and make it work because I got to rejigger the rig in real time. There we go. That worked. Okay, we'll be right back, folks. And we're back.
Yes,
Man.
indeed.
Right.
The last thing I'd like to mention, lest I forget, is I thought it was actually quite nice in ZZZ with the new patch how they could have just easily phoned in and used old assets, but they've got an entire new score for the new chapter. Like all of the music is themed around the Sons of Caledon rather than the stuff we've seen so far. Like it's all done in heavy metal theme, whereas previously it was done in sort of like, you know, electro trap music type stuff.
Yeah, I hate that was the weakest part of ZZZ for me. More than all the complaints we had before with OSC.
Well, I don't think it's a weak part. I think it's a part I don't like.
Yeah, but
because I know that amongst a certain generation that's in.
Yeah,
It's not what I associate with techno, but it is what the modern people associate with techno. Like when I was listening predominantly to techno and the other electronic music, it was sort of like didn't exist yet. It hadn't been invented, and now it's sort of like one of the major genres, along with other things that hadn't been invented, like dubstep. But
yeah, when people say techno to me, I think I'm blue abadi abadai.
That's Europop. It's not really techno.
That's how out of touch with techno I am.
Well, if you want to think about like what modern electronica is, like the descendant of electronica is things like the score for a lot of the score for Blue Archive is descended from electronica, but yeah, there's various bits and pieces. It's not quite as cohesive a genre as it used to be, like back in the day. Like a lot of, because I lean pretty heavily into the neoclassical end of electronica rather than the sort of the center of where it was like club music, house music, dance music, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, these days it's all sort of
with
like
its own 100 different subgenres now.
These days it's all pretty much trap and wubstep. But this is all this particular score is all sort of like a contemporary take on sort of like 80s 90s metal. So I like how they shifted the whole tone of the musical score moving into the new area, because it's been easy for them to do in the past. Like you can in say Genshin, all you have to do is choose a different ethnic flavor, right? That's not too hard to do. You just have to look at different inspirations and then pull those. But in this one, they are using a thematic guide rather than a straight up just like ethnic inspiration. Hello, hello.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just
But that's the end of what I had to say. I just wanted to mention that because for me, in video games, music is extremely important. Like it's something that I always listen to very carefully. Like when I enter a new region or whatever in a video game, a significant part of what I do as far as appreciating what has been introduced is to listen to all of the different music. That's why in Star Rail I went around collecting every single piece of music so that I could play them on the Astral Express.
Yeah, I know it sounds incredibly pretentious, but the music of an environment in a game is as much of a part of the story as the actual words. So yeah, it's something that should not be overlooked.
When I think of music in Star Rail, the only thing I can think of is "Rise Up to My World."
Well, they are going to ameliorate that in an upcoming patch, and apparently it's going to be regionally based. Like it will where the battlefield is will determine which song she sings or something like that. That was one of the early builds. I don't know if it's the one that will go live. I think most people would rather just be able to select or have it totally randomized, but we'll see how it actually goes in the end. But yeah, currently Robin always sings the same song when you use her ult, but since she has, I think, 4 different songs. I think it's 4.
Yeah,
she's got the one she currently sings. She has the
Hope
one
is a thing
she
with
sings,
feathers, the Sunday boss fight theme,
and then she has one other one I think what's it called? It's called something like "If I Had Seen the Sun" or something like that. That doesn't actually appear in the game. That's another one. I don't know if that's going to actually appear in the
I think your
game
Spotify
going
has like
forward.
6 songs on it. Although one of them I think is just a.
No, there's like half of them are instrumentals.
Okay.
But I think I've got Hoyo Mix on my favorites here somewhere. Can I find it? Had I Not Seen the Sun is her other one. Yeah, so she's got hope. Oh, I can't remember the names of all of them, but yeah, she has 4 different songs at present in the game, and currently only 3 of them are in the game per se, but they are going to give you some variation on that, so her alt doesn't always play the same music.
That's good. All right.
Let us
Shall we move on then?
abandon our yes, and let Aria and I abandon our current format and join Fern in his world.
I'm not sure you can at the moment. Hang on, let me just see.
Are you in a
No,
story event?
I'm in story events, and that involves getting yelled at by a chicken on top of a mountain.
Oh,
Because Paimon is also smooth-brained.
What?
He's meeting Cloud Retainer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Paimon just starts talking absolute rubbish, and he calls him out on it.
I kind of like Cloud Retainer, despite myself. Like I found her incredibly antagonizing when I was actually dealing with her. But the reality is that after all was said and done, it's like, you know, realistically, I would be exactly as autistic as Cloud Retainer in all of those circumstances. I'd like Cloud Retainer is just me in female form.
Yeah, I do appreciate the Adepti. It's a neat story bit.
You should have seen last
they all
year's
have some
lunar event with the Adepti. Lunar New Year.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh, when what's it called?
Moon Carver. Yeah, Moon Carver.
Moon Carver, yeah.
They should have given them unique models. I'm sort of rustled that they didn't, but those 2 clowns, like this is like immortals behaving badly type of thing.
Hey, so they're immortal. They don't need to care. They need to do what they want.
They're desperately trying to look normal, but they have no idea what normal looks like.
We will walk amongst the people while trolling Cloud Retainer, and we'll be totally inconspicuous while doing it.
They're maximizing out their hello fellow kids energy.
Oh dear.
You also missed the Paimon kite.
The Paimon kite was something else.
Right.
And it's just another thing to be rustled about with Genshin, to be honest. Like, please stop refusing to archive events. Like, every time, like, did you watch any of the current, the most recent preview video on YouTube where they showed the stuff for the new patch? It was very clumsily done. It's very obvious that they're trying to create their own version of the very polished Star Rail ones, that they haven't quite got the formula down, and they didn't have the voice actors ready either. So they just grabbed 2 random guys from the localization team to read the lines, who can only speak English at a acceptable level that I would be willing to employ them, but not at what I would call mastery level. But they at the end of this show, they had sort of like a reasonably lengthy montage celebrating the 4th anniversary of Genshin, where they showed a lot of scenes of stuff that had happened in the story. And, you know, it was, even for me, having not been very thorough in my playthrough of Genshin, it was still kind of nostalgic. It did still manage to strike a chord. It's like, yeah, I remember that scene. I remember the feelings that I had when I was watching that story event play out, and so on and so forth. But then there's these other ones that I wasn't there for, that I can't experience because they are in the past and they never archive these things. And I'm like, I'm just sort of feel kind of sad and left out by that.
Yeah.
Like, if I try to imagine how I might have felt in Star Rail if I hadn't been able to do the Ghost Hunters event, because that is so formative in getting to love the Loafu rather than just know it. Like, as some like for Aristeal especially, as Aristeal has no affinity for Chinese culture whatsoever, unlike me. without that, is there anything left of the Shanshou Laifu?
No, I told you I hated it until the Ghost Hunter event.
Yeah, there's really not much else besides.
Like the place feels kind of homey to me without that event, because I have at least got some cultural purchase there due to blood. But that story makes them real people. It makes them like, well, not even just real people, but a bunch of like idiot goofballs that you like to hang out with. Like, and everybody on that team is a total goober. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah. So, real quick, because I want to get to Fern's week before we pinball it back to me to talk about the mechanical stuff. In ZZZ, the current event, Cheesetopia, appears like it will be archived. It's just as dumb as it sounds. Don't worry. In fact, it's even dumber than it sounds, and it's wonderful. But
gloriously dumb.
It has a section in the rewards called permanent rewards, which leads me to believe there will be an archiving event system.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm really starting to appreciate at Genshin is that they. It seems based on the pace at which they've been moving. If you look at this year versus the 3 years prior, the pace at which they've been developing QOL has shot through the freaking roof. I think that somebody took that whole Genshin would never meme to heart. Well, I think it really cut somebody there and has kicked them into high gear.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a very strong rivalry between development teams over at Hoyo.
Well, there's a certain amount of rival, but there's also a certain amount of camaraderie. I think that what has improved actually is just communication. Like this has been something of a theme at my workplace lately as well. Like I spent all week basically being trained this week by a more veteran lab manager. Flew down to spend basically 2.5 days going through with me how I should be actually doing the job. And this is actually very important to me because it's been 20 months since I ascended to my current position and nobody has helped me do anything. I had no idea what I was doing the entire time. 20 months of desperately scrambling to try and keep things from falling apart, not knowing how I'm supposed to do it. And I finally got some training. And basically the gist that I got from my trainer was like, he's planning to basically usher in a new paradigm where all of the lab managers are regularly communicating and cooperating on making sure that collectively the labs are being managed correctly, rather than every one of us being left to try and scramble along to the best we can do on our own.
I really don't know who thought that would be a good idea in the first place.
Well, it's not something that is done intentionally. It's something that happens when, like, both of you guys occupy small family businesses, so you don't really experience what it's like to have huge long-term brain drain over a course of a few years.
Been there. That's why I left building firm.
Yeah, so if you had like, and to simplify this for the listeners' sake, like if Fern's business had a stable of really knowledgeable drivers, and then they just all left at once, and you had like one guy who knew how to do everything, and everybody else was just sort of a clown, and then you were still just trying to operate at the same level that you were before, that's what it's like.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
But yeah, I think that something similar probably took place at Hoyo, where they decided, look, we've got no coordination between these teams. The Honkai 3rd team develops one way, the Star Rail team develops another way, the Genshin team develops another way, the ZZT team develops another way. What we are observing in practice is that the Genshin people like Genshin, but they don't like the way it is run. The people in Star Rail are making fun of the Genshin team because they are so much happier and they feel like they're in control of their game experience in a way the Genshin people aren't. And the ZZZ team have got everything to prove and have nothing really on the table just yet. We need to course correct in such a way to maximize what we know does work and minimize the things that we know don't. And this is what seems to be happening going forward. But I'm hoping to see a lot more cooperation, and there's sort of encouraging signs, like the upcoming Honkai 3rd Star Rail collaboration. Have you heard about that?
Yeah,
I have not.
I saw a picture of it.
Did you watch the video?
No, I just saw a picture.
The video is highly amusing. I recommend it. I very much recommend it. Especially if you are a fan of Sparkle and art in general.
Oh no!
Like this sort of preview trailer, despite the fact that it's just a sort of a gag preview of sorts, but it did sort of like make me a little bit envious of people that pulled Sparkle, because Sparkle, despite the fact that she is a searingly red flag in every conceivable way and kind of obnoxious in a lot of ways, it's still a very fun character because of who she is and the beloved deity she serves. This trailer is based around that in a lot of ways. The trailer is very humorous, and by the time it's over, you will still have no idea whatsoever what the Honkai Honkai Star Rail crossover will actually entail. But it's still, I was thoroughly entertained just by watching it, so I definitely recommend watching it. I posted it in the mobile games channel a while back, I think. But yeah, it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch.
Check it out later. Yeah, anytime anyone involved with Ahato's up, you know it's going to be chaos. So
yeah, I mean, I really like Sparkle. Like, even though I didn't pull for her, like she's not perfectly in the bullseye for me, but aesthetically I like her a lot. She's just like, my goodness, this is like a red flag of a woman if ever I met one.
Alarm.
Like she makes Bernice seem level-headed.
I don't know. I think they would collab.
I think that they would get on like a house on fire, and it would definitely be literal by the end of the meeting.
Sounds like a terrible idea, and we should never do it.
Make sure this happens immediately.
All right, I guess I'll
Your week.
keep it short because I'll jump in. Yeah, it's not got a whole lot to it because it's been a very just black week. Nothing really happened, but it feels like something should have. One of those weeks. So we'll stick with gaming. The first thing I've been chipping away at has mostly been I stuck my face back into Nightingale and have another look at that because they put out a big patch.
Remind me which game that was. Is that the one with the portals and stuff?
With the Victorian English people all traipsing through the Feywilds. With the Fey being the Fey.
Traipsing through the Feywilds never seems like it's going to be worth it.
No. So it's still a good time. The original game kind of just dumped you into your what they call your abeyance, your safe starting zone, and there was a bunch of sites of power around. You kind of had to face check which one was the one you needed to go to figure out how to proceed. And it was all very kind of obtuse. So thankfully they fixed that. Now you just have a circle of portals and you just go around it clockwise. And you'll just unlock the next one as you go around. Still don't know what the main story is, other than Earth has been covered in some sort of shroud, and it is the fault of the French.
What isn't?
Because, yes, it was always going to be the fault of the French. But just changing up that through line just makes the gameplay a lot better. They still haven't made multiplayer particularly easy to understand because I still have no idea how that's supposed to work. But yeah, it's a good time and it's a lot better than it was previously. It's still got a ways to go. The crafting system is still a bit clunky since for the most part what you do is just feed materials into a crafting bench and it'll make it, but what materials you put in will determine what stats your gear has. And really there's no way of there's no readily available list of what will give you what stats until you actually go and find the material. So you need to just go out, farm a whole bunch of random stuff, and then stick it in the bench and see what you get. But beyond that, the boss fights are interesting. It's just a good no-brain game.
Is this the one that runs on Vulkan instead of DirectX?
Yes, it is.
So that the developers are batshit.
Yes.
Who would do this? I
I'm
mean,
not
it's
gonna
useful
complain.
for a benchmarking perspective in case anybody decides Vulkan is important.
I run an AMD card, so it actually does help a little bit. No, there's been
I don't
other
know.
games
I
where
guess
they...
I don't know. Does Vulkan perform particularly well on AMD? I don't really know since I've got an NVIDIA now.
Yeah, it's kind of not... I want to say it's DirectX for AMD, but it's not DirectX. It's I'm blanking on what it's called now. Direct 3D? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I'll probably remember it later. But yeah, it's just an equivalent to whatever NVIDIA runs. For the most part, though, it really doesn't make a whole lot of a difference.
Well, the thing it does clock differently if you're doing like benchmarking. It's so a lot of like the major benchmarkers do include Nightingale. I think Nightingale as their standard measure of does Vulkan work on this particular hardware.
Yeah. Nightingale can be a very pretty game when it wants to be, and it can put a bit of a strain on a computer, so I can see why they would include it in benchmarking.
Well, the funny one that gets included in benchmarking is actually the GTA. Can't remember which one, because one of them for some reason is CPU limited.
Okay.
Nobody really knows why. There's some really weird thing happened when they were putting together the optimization and sort of like the hardware pipeline for it. And for some reason, you can get so much performance out of the GPU, but it's how much performance you can get out of the GPU is actually bracketed by what your CPU is doing for some reason.
Right.
So if your CPU is not good enough, it doesn't matter how good your GPU is. The threshold is set by the CPU, not the GPU.
This is foreshadowing, and we'll have more to talk about later.
Yes. Really, that's been a bulk of my week. The other one I played was I dabbled with the new expansion for Gas Station Simulator. If you want a zero-brain game, there you go.
Are you not tired of working when you finish working?
You could be having wonderful adventures in
I could
Inazuma
be.
by now. But no, you gotta go run a gas station.
But that involves thinking.
No, Inazuma does
I
not
go to
involve
the gas
thinking.
station every week already.
I also do go to the gas station. Maybe I should be getting all that gas money, hey? But no. But yeah, there's a lot of these simulator games that have popped up on Steam over the last maybe 12 months, and most of them are like Supermarket Simulator, or they are also Supermarket Simulator. You actually search that, there's like 5 games that call themselves Supermarket Simulator. It's stupid.
I deeply resent going to the supermarket.
Yes.
Like, if food just grew out of my pantry, I'd be perfectly happy.
I thought you said your pants for a second.
Supermarket. Is
be
pantry not
alarming.
a word in America?
No. It just it cut on my personal headphones. It took me a second to continue the thought. Oh, okay.
I don't know what weird words you've decided to randomly omit from your American English dictionary.
I think you are. You need to keep in mind that my personal dictionary is not the American English dictionary. It's the whatever I feel like calling something at this moment.
The Georgian English dictionary.
No. I think this one's more of a personal one. I'll nickname everything.
Jeff English dictionary.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have anything to say on the anime front because I've been searching for a new Bob.
You haven't found one yet?
I thought I found one, and then it suddenly stopped responding as well. So,
well, the Bobs are going to be sus for a while, I think.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
The high one right now is the one that everybody's using as the replacement, but I don't know it yet.
I was using? Yeah, there was Hi Bob, and then there was.
iBob works fine for me when I open it right now, but
yeah, there's a bunch of them out there that the site itself works fine, but the actual streaming does not, and I think that's to do with the Great Australian Firewall.
yeah.
There's a few of them I can
have
go
one.
to, and I just get a message from the federal government saying this site has been blocked.
That feel when live in police state.
Uh-huh. Curse you, nanny state. Yeah, I don't want to give my money to Crunchyroll though
No, I'm just not going to do it. I would rather not watch anime entirely than give money to Crunchyroll.
Yeah,
it's just
and
not.
you can't.
I don't want to encourage the idea that you can get money for service that bad.
Yeah. Also, you can't use Crunchyroll free version because all the seasonal stuff is behind the paywall, and anything that's not behind the paywall is unwatchable because there's just so many ads in it. There's like an ad every 3 minutes or so.
You open it up in Brave or Chrome and install uBlock Origin. Good catch most.
I might try that if I really want to.
Crunchyroll's been pretty active at making sure that their ads get monetized. Like, they are really that is by far a higher concern from them than quality of service. Is making sure the ads don't get blocked. You're definitely engaged in a arms race.
Yeah.
Where exactly is the Pyroculus here?
Oh, it's
I would love there to be, multiple options of sites I can go to and give money to, but there's not.
Oh no, that's the grapple point. Pyroculus at all.
Oh,
is it underground or something?
Right.
Better, it's in the middle of the air.
No. I actually tried to do a memory puzzle here at the same time as talk, so that's not easy.
Memory puzzles do not work at the same time as talking. I did that the entire time while I was in Inazuma during the show, and I never managed to solve a puzzle. Several times Ari came and solved it, but I was never able to solve them while talking.
I think I got it this time.
I hate Inazuma puzzles. They wind me up.
I like the little dice ones. I didn't like any of the other ones.
I don't like any of them. They make me mad.
Yeah, Mount Chengdu, some of those puzzles will probably drive you nuts as well.
I haven't any problems with ones other than Inazuma ones. I just particularly dislike the Inazuma ones.
Oh, there we go. Up there's a Pyroculus.
Where? You're standing in a total different place to where I see the mark on the map.
I know, but it's a different Pyroculus. It's much higher up, so we might be able to see the other one.
Oh no, gravity! No!
Dawn, you slime.
So yeah, I'm just going to leave my week at that. It's been a nothing week.
Yeah.
Nothing week.
Some of those just stuff happened, but also nothing happened, and I don't know where the week went.
Well, no.
So, yeah.
Bad at
What happens when you need more staff? I don't get days off anymore. Why?
Day off. No.
Are you? Is there any plan whatsoever in progress to ameliorate the situation to any meaningful degree?
Yes. We've had a few people inquire about the job offerings or the job open positions, but then they just kind of disappeared.
Well, that's not a plan. That's more like a happening.
How do people manage to vanish with such prodigious frequency in your part of the world?
I guess asked about the job, you put our hopes up, and then you just wandered off.
I guess vanishing into the desert is something that just happens in Australia a lot.
It do.
There do be underground part here.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Oh, I'm about to take animal fall damage.
Animal don't take fall damage.
They do, just not very much.
It's like punching attack fall damage. Always think you're screwed. Take anything.
Yeah. Mostly, I think the only thing I've really been watching this week has been the Eclipse of Holo GTA, which has been gloriously chaotic, and just watching Ubisoft burn.
I quite enjoy watching their stock price continue.
Yeah.
Down and down.
Down and
Well, I mean, the thing is
down.
that it's so hard for me to feel any kind of sympathy for Ubisoft because Ubisoft is a family business. Like everything that everything that causes them to suffer is like a product of their own sort of fundamental nepotism.
Yeah.
I found how to get it, and I don't know how to
Yeah.
open it.
It comes back to our old friend toxic positivity in some cases too.
Well, I think in the case of Ubisoft, it's just general purpose toxicity. Like, they're not. I don't
If
think
it's
they're.
toxic, it's here. But did you see those bits of footage out of TGS over the week? It wasn't. This is an Ubisoft one, by the way, because Ubisoft pulled out of Tokyo Game Show. Also, PAX Australia, by the way, they pulled out of that as well. That's coming up in a couple of weeks.
I did see the
But
email
there's
the
also-
CEO wrote.
Yeah, saying that we don't push any agenda and all of that stuff.
Oh no, the one that said that it encouraged every team lead to find every way they could to scrape and cut costs.
Oh, that one. Yeah. So, but yeah, you had that booth from, Dustborn. You remember Dustborn?
No.
There, they had that massive booth, or well, not a massive booth, but a booth at TGS, and you had people all around it, and not a single person at that booth. I've seen little bits and pieces of what actually happens in the game of Dustborn, and you cannot convince me that you're playing as the hero. You are playing as the villain in that game.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Also, Cloud Retainer has showed up, and she is being, well, Cloud Retainer, I guess.
Yep. So, all right.
Yeah, I tried to do Final Fantasy. I just couldn't.
Not right now.
I'm just bored.
Got a whole Genshin, and
Yeah, but no, I want to progress on Final Fantasy because I want to get the story out of the way and actually get in and grind some stuff and progress. But obviously, I've still got to do the story before I unlock a whole bunch of stuff, and I just don't want to.
Oh, Vol, that one has a key that's required for it, and I don't know where the key is. I've been looking for it and haven't been able to find it.
I've got both keys. The problem is that I can't use them.
Oh, okay. Hang on. After I kill this this water dude that's currently chewing Fern's World.
Yeah.
Like I was not interested in Cloud Retainer at all when she came out, but personality wise, I can't help but resonate with her because she's just so unable to mesh with normal society at all.
Well, her first response is when her friend's been assassinated, instead of figuring out who did it and all that, because well, I'm just going to go squash the city.
I mean, that I can completely sympathize with this point of view also.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, but probably not a good idea. So yeah. Anyway, I'll leave my week at that. It's been just a blah week.
Blah
blah.
This was
one day I will have holidays.
This was not
eventually.
Yeah. Holidays are not a thing.
They are not a thing.
You know this.
Holidays are for other people.
Holidays are for
Quite
people.
literally, I'm the reason I'm so busy at work right now is because so many other people are on holiday.
The opossum went on holiday. I did not. Why do we have to be the responsible ones?
Wouldn't that count as a holiday for you?
There's a special world elite in that behind that door.
You need me to come back and help
I got
you?
Shrek.
You need me to come back and shoot guns at it?
It might help if you do. I'm gonna have to go to a section of the 7 because the moment it spawned, it took away 99% of my health.
Oh, it just spanked you.
Yeah.
All right.
What do I need to do? Following quest needs to be completed before entering another player. Well, Wangshu. Okay. Oh, okay. It's the quest I'm doing at the moment. So, yep, I am doing the right quest.
continue your quest, and we will go bank a thing.
I also want to spin the gacha.
For Kanish, well, Kanish is hacks for mobility, but he's not
I kind of
very.
want. Yeah, Kanish would replace Yao Yao on my team.
Apparently, she's like absolutely. Kenichi's like apparently he's like absolutely cheating for world exploration. Like people feel they're not even really playing fair anymore.
Yeah, as a combat character, he has all the same jank that that Mualani has. Although Mualani is actually, well, since we get into the Mualani is actually the second character I think that's getting buffs post release.
Ah.
Much easier to give out buffs than it is to give out nerfs because nobody can argue that you're reducing value.
Yeah,
in
well,
that context.
Yeah.
Mualani's got a problem where if you're not in Spiral Abyss or if the enemy moves too fast, your Sharky ain't hitting anything. You're just gonna whiff every single attack.
Yeah, because everything that she does comes out really slowly.
Yeah, so now Sharky is being adjusted so that he auto corrects your turning whenever you push the button to one of the shark bitten targets that's closest, and he will travel slightly faster and will attempt to track the target better.
Oh, that's handy.
With that hole in the ground. I don't remember now where you found it.
It's by the domain.
Was it really at the end of that one? I didn't think it was. I thought it was the other direction. Oh well.
So
she was a mean person behind that door.
So I was not supposed to have a free week this week. And then a hurricane happened.
Oh joy.
Oh no, this gets dumber.
Oh no.
So the weatherman scared the crap out of everybody, including the governor of Georgia. And the governor declared a state of emergency. And we're supposed to get like half a foot of water flooding in the cities. Everything's terrible forever. Everything is now closed. He got bopped. Hang on, this dude is very fast.
I don't think we expected it to be quite this.
This is rather intense. Yeah, this is a rather intense boss fight we've found ourselves in.
I did not realize it was going to be like this. I thought he was just a dude.
He is not just a dude.
Get him. Get him.
What did you do?
Guy, he's not a dude. He's like
the dude.
Like meeting a Fatui for the first time back in the day.
This guy's got mechanics and crap.
You're gonna get spanked.
But we're doing okay because we got Barbara.
Yeah, as per usual, Barbara cannot be retired ever.
Oh no, Nahida. Oh, it's okay. We got Barbara. It's fine. Oh, Nahida died. Oh, no problem. Barbara. I guess if you find the real one, he just gets stunned for like ever. Hang on, we almost got him.
Achievement.
And a whole lot of it's sacrificial knives, like all these world bosses drop. They drop
15? Really?
They give you a ton of the drop for that particular enemy type when you kill them.
Nice.
There's a bunch of ones
doing them, but
if you can do them.
If you can do them, yeah.
I hear that there's like a group of 3 Fatui that appear together that are all named somewhere in Natlan that apparently a lot of people get teabagged for when they first accidentally run across them because they're just sort of in a field, they'll just spawn on you.
That's not polite.
No. Right, before I get too sidetracked. So this week, I had mentioned that I was going to be busy starting tax prep work, and all I could basically do this week was gather documents because everybody was closed. Because the weatherman said 1,000,000 feet are. Oh, right, I killed some dudes. Well, earlier and it opened. because the weatherman said, "Oh, hey, we're gonna get like half a foot of water piling up, and it's gonna be 50-mile-an-hour winds from the residuals of that hurricane that's gonna hit Florida. It's gonna come up through Georgia. It's gonna be terrible, and it's going right over you, Ari, right over your town. Oh, that's not good. I bet you the weatherman's wrong." And I was telling everybody this all week long.
Because they usually are.
And then we hit Wahoo down. Wahoo down means the Waffle House closed. Waffle House never closes. It does not. The Waffle House does not care. If
Is this like a civil defense emergency for you guys or something?
the Waffle House got spooked by the weather, man, you know it's going to be a big storm. Okay. Well, I got a free week now. I guess I will spend some time in Genshin and ZZ because I can't make any progress on the stuff I need to. So that's going to get delayed at least to next week, and people still aren't back because they vacated the state, or the federal government or the state government won't reopen crap. It may get delayed even more, which is going to just make me angry because every year I tell myself I'll just focus on it and get it done and just put the nose to the grindstone. Maybe I can be done by the first half of October. Never, ever happens. Something stupid happens every single year that ruins this plan, and it drives me insane. So, that was my rant. Storm gets here on Friday night. Big storm that shut us down for a week ahead of time, practically, from Wednesday onwards. And, 24-mile-an-hour winds with like 2 inches of rain.
Oh no, what will you do?
Yeah, that is a normal, mildly blustery, not even mildly blustery, not even blustery.
It's a storm.
Yeah, not even a storm, really. There's no lightning.
It's a bit wet.
Yeah, it is quite swampy outside. Your feet will sink into the grass.
Big old nothing burger.
A few limbs knocked out of trees from the wind, like every other time it rains.
You might need to change your socks.
Yeah. Don't go out. Don't walk across the yard in slippers. Like, this is what y'all were freaking out about?
You should know better, like, based on the, quote, snow days, unquote, that you guys have.
I mean, I was telling everybody, okay, why are y'all running to the supermarket? Why are you busting out the battery backup? We don't need to get the generator out, Dad. If the power goes out, it'll be back in like 12 hours. Tops.
Yep, just go buy a bag of ice.
Like, yeah, at most, go grab a bag of ice and some soft drinks for Mama, and we'll be good. That's all we need. We don't even need that, really. We got playing cards. We can sit there and play poker all night. I don't care. We'll find ways to entertain ourselves without electricity for a while. We did it my entire childhood. But no, this was the end of the world and derailed my plans completely. So I had a lot of time to sit alone with nobody else listening to me. And while they're all running around, I'm just playing Genshin and ZZZ. And made progress on a lot of story quests in Genshin, and poked at some of the in-game content in ZZZ and Genshin as well, and played through the new story. In ZZZ, that is.
Man, I need to get myself an irrational weather scare.
Yeah.
I would, but nobody here listens to them anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would believe your weather people if they tried to claim that it was suddenly going to become extremely wet.
Yeah, like we had a band of rain come across from the Northern Territory this week, and it hit the range to the west of us, and it just disintegrated. So we'll just take the weather as it comes. No need to try and predict it. It ain't happening. You're not going to guess it.
Yeah. So, Florida did get absolutely murdered. South Georgia got murdered. My area did not. So,
yeah.
I guess we'll start from the top then. One of the things I was doing that I was planning on continuing to chew on anyway was I wanted to keep going through Final Fantasy 16, but was running into a few more shoes. There was a bit of chug-a-lug in some of the towns when a lot of NPCs would show up, and it was really driving me nuts. And then something else happened. I saw the Monster Hunter Wilds recommended system requirements.
Them's a chonky, son.
Yeah, and then I saw the text targeting 30 FPS on consoles. I looked at my little 3070 Ti 8GB, and I'm like, wonder how much I can get out of you. And spent $800 on a video card. Got a 4070 Ti Super 16GB.
At least you won't need to upgrade that one for a while.
Why did you buy that one?
Because
That one's famously cursed.
Is
It
it?
is also famously cursed. But yeah, for the most part, like the 30 series has been fine up until now. Like most games coming out and most games already out will run quite happily on the 30s. Monster Hunter does not or will not.
It will.
Well,
It just
they say that.
Yeah, they always kind of overshoot these things a bit.
But it was more when I play any action game, I want a consistent performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made a bad financial decision on a whim.
So the 70 Ti. The 70 Ti was not released originally as a 70 Ti.
It's that one.
It was released as another one, but underperformed so dramatically that calling it anything other than a 70 Ti was unacceptable.
So it is now the 70 Ti.
It is now the 70 Ti, but it's actually the unwanted red-headed stepchild.
I see. So I have the 70 Ti Super, whatever that means.
It's worst in class for price performance, basically.
But yeah.
Like go one lower or go one higher. Don't go for that one.
So yeah, overspent, bad financial decisions doesn't really bother me. Not like I got a house to spend money on. So
because Bidenomics.
Yeah, I'm in much the situation Vol is, where I'm making a relatively decent paycheck and have multiple tens of thousands of dollars.
And ultimately no way of actually cashing it in for anything meaningful.
Yeah, we can't. There is no predictable investment that would make sense. So this disposable income sometimes does this to me. Usually about once or twice a year, a bad financial decision will get made.
I think everyone's entitled to lash out and do something dumb with their money at least once or twice a year. As long as it's not a common, regular thing.
Yeah, this barely accounts to a single percentage of the money I have saved up. So, we're good. Actually, it's 2%.
Speaking of terrible decisions, I think I should not have swum across this lake.
But yeah, so did that. Some measurements beforehand because I could not find my case's size it has allotted for a GPU anywhere. So I busted the measuring stick out, measured it in millimeters. I thought I would have 12 millimeters of clearance. I had 1.8 millimeters of clearance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 40 series cards are chonky. They are big.
They're long.
They are long. And a lot of cases just won't fit them.
It got in there.
You got in there, but only just.
It's real snuggly with that front fan. That they are hugging.
But yeah, they also, like I said on your chat, they also have an issue with droop.
Yeah, it's got a spacer. I have the spacer sitting underneath it, so if it does droop, it doesn't droop too much. But it's not a very good spacer.
Yeah, no, it's a cheap piece of rubbish they give you. You're better off replacing that if you're relying on it. But
yeah, I can literally stick any piece of plastic that's approximately the right size under there and do better.
You know it's going to be an issue when they include the spacer in the box.
Yeah, so it's in there. It's spacing. It's fine. Got it in there. It was the roughest GPU install of all time because of how tight it was, but it got in there, and we just needed a little bit of elbow grease.
Need a bit of wiggling.
A little bit of pushing harder than I really probably should have, but it got in there and it's running fine. And I tested it on Final Fantasy 16. None of the issues I was having before. None of the cutscenes causing the GPU to overheat anymore. I can run the 60 FPS cutscene mod just fine. GPU is, under 55 degrees. And it's aside from a bit of coil whine when it first turned on, the very first power on it had, it's been pretty quiet. I have to take the headphones off and really listen to hear it. So, I got the MSI branded one. I forget what its special coder is, but it's an MSI one.
Wouldn't have done that either. I think you picked the wrong one in both cases.
So this could turn into a Razer scenario where it'll work great for 4 months and then fall apart.
It'll be under warranty when it collapses, if it collapses.
Yeah.
But it is entirely possible it collapses because you picked the worst conceivable combination.
So it was the cheapest one.
Well, there's a reason.
So in that performance bracket that I could find. So thankfully uses the same drivers as my my previous card, so didn't have any driver shuffling.
Yep. For the most part, NVIDIA and AMD will both use a universal driver system.
Yep. So
these days, yes. It's not about you need to know the exact make and model before you can start.
I still check it anyway on the websites just to be sure.
Yeah, you've got, I forget what the NVIDIA one is, NVIDIA Control Center or AMD Adrenalin, and they will just sort out the drivers for you.
NVIDIA's got a better app now instead of that thing that looks like it's on Windows 98.
Oh, yes. The AMD one.
That one's still in there, you know.
Yeah, you can still
it's kind of buried.
You can still use the Windows 98 one. It's just
like how it gives you the before and after graphic where they both look absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, with a little terrible 3D render of the NVIDIA logo in it. Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, I'd updated my AMD Adrenalin not too long ago, maybe a week ago, and now it's developed this bug where my computer goes into sleep mode and I wake it up again and it just opens Adrenalin for no reason. Apparently it's a common bug and they haven't fixed it yet. So I don't know why. It's like, it doesn't hurt anything. It's just minorly annoying.
Yeah. I don't know about that one. That was weird.
Yeah, it beats me.
So,
I think it's just ignoring a setting when it shouldn't.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the hardware update side of things. On the Genshin and ZZ side of things, I did Florinda's story, which I don't know if I'll they go full retard with it.
You can safely assume I haven't done any story.
Okay.
Because I just don't have that much time in my day.
So okay, here's what I'll say with in general broad strokes for all of the stories, because this applies to all of them. Every single story from Fontaine onwards, none of them are misses. In fact, most of them are quite good. I would call them better than the ZZZ stories.
That's not hard. I think the ZZZ stories are decisively mediocre. Like, they're not in the sense that they're bad. They're just not exceptional. I don't think any of them are exceptional.
Yeah. But these are, any one of these could be memorable to somebody if it resonates with them. And Clorinda's really, really went well with me on as far as they go, because they just go full retard with them. That one. And it's told really, really well. Arlecchino's I did several weeks ago. That one's really good. Risley and Sedgween's was surprisingly good at answering the "what the heck is Sedgween's deal?" question. It didn't blue ball us on that. It just the whole story quest is about figuring out what the answer to that question is. And yeah, they were all pretty good there. So that ate one of the days, was doing about 4 those story quests, just to get some premos for the two upcoming characters. I'm probably gonna, well, one I'm definitely pulling on, and one I'm probably pulling on. So making progress on that, and that and some basic farming to get as you saw my my Guoba up to level 90 was all I really did in Genshin in terms of gameplay. So that's that. Not much more to talk about in Genshin. The Star Rail's been in a total holding pattern until Topaz comes out, basically, because I desperately need to farm before I can do anything. I did get her to 90, but she just hit 90 and has a level 70 light cone. So, given that Pure Fiction exists, I figured I need to do this eventually. Might as well just bite the bullet now while nothing's going.
Yeah, I feel like Hurt is probably going to be evergreen in Pure Fiction.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine how. Like, the only thing I can imagine outstripping her is when, you know, Madame Herta of the Genius Society comes out if she's also Erudition.
Madame Herta without the robo legs.
Yeah, like the actual individual.
Yeah. So yeah. That game has been in farming mode. I'm pre-farming for Topaz because I'm pretty much, well, I'm guaranteed to get Topaz. I could even pull for Fei Zhao if I wanted and still have plenty of guarantee to get Topaz. But I don't really feel a need to because I also want to go for Topaz. And to make the AHA team work, at present Topaz is non-negotiable.
Yeah, I think that generally what you need is 2 fully functional and operating archetypes right now.
Yeah, right now we have Acheron Hodgepodge, and we're working on the follow-up team. Acheron Hodgepodge solves way more problems than it should.
Well, she's powerful. It's not going to stop happening anytime soon, but it will stop happening one day.
Yeah, so we'll roll with that for a while and see how far it gets us in the end game. I'm mostly interested in the story after going through Pinacone, and Pinacone actually making me wanting to keep going. And the Ghost Hunter event. I'll give Woho credit, and well, mostly Mr. Tail credit, but Woho can have some too. But yeah, that's that one. ZZZ is the big one. This is where the bulk of my time went this week. First off is a warning. If you accidentally, like I did, happen to talk to the right sequence of NPCs in town over the course of several days after completing Chapter 2, especially now that you can time skip, because I was talking to the trash can, because he just tells you where the stupid coins are now, thank goodness. Do not, oh boy, I think you found them.
Oh boy. Yeah. Please help. I've only got electro damage, and one of these guys has an electro shield. So.
Okay, we got a Barbara. That cryo thing needs to go away.
Are we making any headway here at all?
Their shields got to go away first before we can hurt them. Hang on, please hold. We are having the most epic fat boss fight of all time.
Oh, I got freaking wrecked.
You got whopped?
I got whopped. Something wicked. I stood still for too long and got shot. Dead. I don't have the quick eat thing, so I need to wait for everything to be following you for a second.
Hang on. Oh no. Oh no. Barbara, don't do that to me. Don't do this to me, Barbara.
Why is all the res food at the bottom of the list?
Oh no, the cryo guy doesn't care about me anymore. He's coming for you. He's gonna get you.
No, why did the lightning guy chase me? He was not interested in me at all until a second ago.
Please hold. We are experiencing Fatui difficulties.
These Fatui are some serious business Fatui. I got killed again. Okay, I can't help you at this point.
We're just gonna have the Barbara solos the boss.
Fix it, Barbara.
Barbara is.
What she do?
Barbara can't fix it. Barbara down. Barbara.
That's it. I'm gonna hit one of the gates in this game where you need an NPC for the main story quest, but they're tied up with another quest. So I've gone from let's save the city from the angry bird lady to let's argue about soup.
Hang on, I'm just gonna buy some invincibility frames. Nahida, please don't die. Turn the music on, Barbara. Dang it!
It was not supposed to be this way. It is kind of nice that they have introduced actual combat challenges in here, but can you imagine if we were actually on the highest world level?
We have almost popped the shield on Lightning Boy. But I still want that Cryo one gone because you know what Cryo does to Barbara.
Can't res still, so.
Nahida was out for like 0.2 seconds and lost all of her HP. She had barely
Nahida just got
survived.
smushed. Yeah, how do I get back up there again?
Oh, we're out of music for a bit.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, pulling a Robin. There's like 4 seconds in on the cooldown of Barbara's song where she won't sing anymore.
Is that shield? That shield went back up.
Yes, but that's because I've had a Cryo Fatui freezing me. Look, when you use Barbara as much as I do, Cryo Fatui are your worst enemies. In fact, Cryo Hilichurls are your worst enemy. Get the Fatui.
Just Cryo in general.
Okay. Mofo finally is, ow.
Perhaps we should have gone and prepared for this.
You mean like with raid food?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yes,
it went
the
back
man
up.
that just helped is now yelling at me. Lovely.
We apologize for the dead air. This is quite the intense boss fight. We'll be with you shortly. We have almost got the problem one.
I do not have the. I do not have it. I do not have anything.
I got it. I got it. I don't got it.
I seriously don't got it.
We'll fix it. Barbara's out of stamina. That's not good.
Whoa! What chunked the Cryo guy's shield?
Maybe it was Electro Boy. Maybe he smacked his buddy.
Yeah, maybe they can chunk each other. See if we can get the fire guy to shoot the Cryo guy. Maybe
try and line up the perfect shot while not getting hammered. Oh, something worked. Happened again.
Oh man, really? One shot?
Okay.
Pressure is down a little bit.
Yeah,
you just gotta hold it together until the other two are dead.
Hang on, Nahida died. Barbara died.
Both of mine died.
Nope.
Maybe they enrage.
It's possible. Okay, I managed to get Barbara up in time before Nahida died with an egg.
I can only try and run back. That's all I can do.
Okay, I broke the shield. I broke the shield on the fire one, so I can use him to heal up.
Or I'll just head back. Maybe Barbara can save me. This was not supposed to happen. Just FYI, I did not intend on this.
Mistakes were made.
Unlike Aristeel, I have a melee character, so I have to stand in the line of fire occasionally. At least I got a lot of recruit insignias out of that.
Alright.
Grief, his shield is back again.
Oh no, Barbara. I would love to stop in Nahida, but Barbara was in trouble. On a Robin.
I think the only damage I'm really doing is hyper blooms.
Alright.
Yeah, Fern, entertain
You know
the
what?
guests. We're almost down to just one of them.
You're just gonna.
Even-
Oh dear, oh dear.
This is a world boss that we just sort of face checked by accident, so we can't really do a great deal about it.
And it's whomping you.
No, we got it. We're down to the last one.
Provided this guy doesn't have a special mechanic.
Almost one shot Barbara's a pretty good special mechanic.
It
That's
is
a nope.
quite a mechanic.
Alright, let's see.
Unfortunately, all of my characters are lightning damage, and he has a lightning-based shield. And I just got one shot.
You just got smallish.
Fantastic.
Alright, screw it. I'm gonna spin for Kinnick. Let's go.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
Nahida.
If you
Spin!
get him, he's definitely going to help your
Ooh.
exploration.
Okay, I got Golden Glow.
Golden glow.
Golden Glow.
Golden
Let's
glow.
see. Crap sword, crap spear, crap sword, crap spear. And it is Cujo.
Ujo.
That's not a
What?
Golden Glow.
No, she's 4-star. What are you talking about?
It's 4-star. So I got Cujo Sara. That's a new character. That's a debate club. And there's Kinnick.
Grats. You can now
Yay.
explore effortlessly and make progress through the game roughly 5 times as fast as Ari and I ever did.
I can now cheat to get all the culises.
Oh, Barbara got one
Pretty
shot.
much, yeah.
Oh no, Res Food's on cooldown.
I'd had
Come on, he's nearly down.
apparently I had Cujo Sara before, so okay, I've got what is it, level 2 Cujo Sara now? Yes. So that was a good pull.
Oh,
I died.
finally. I died too. It must have martyrdom from Call of Duty or something.
I have to return to the statue. That wasn't a way to end that fight.
That...
Nobody likes getting squished.
It
Okay.
was not supposed to be this way. What were we even doing before we accidentally provoked a boss fight?
What were you doing?
Talking about ZZZ new patch. Right. Story's really good. Can't talk about it yet. Cheesetopia is the goober event of this one, and Belle is channeling her best Stell.
Just
And-
Cheesetopia.
She might, in fact, be outstelling Stell in this event. And just
That's impressive because Stella on the flying ship, what's it called, was something else.
yeah.
Stell is peak goober.
I don't
Seeing Stell from the outside, my goodness.
I don't know if we beat hotel lobby manager Stell, but we're definitely trying. And Belle is voiced for most of it.
Oh dear.
So yeah. That's all good and well. Real thing that we foreshadowed talking about was ZZZ. Was the quality of life update that this patch brought to the game. A bunch of our complaints were addressed in this particular update. First, I'll talk about a personal one that bugged me. There's a collectible in town called the HIA coins. We included this earlier. These are coins you can collect by talking to NPCs that have little ellipses over their head that are not named characters. Can't get any reputation. And
or occasionally just as sparkly items.
Yeah. They have set times where they can spawn, and only a set number of them can spawn at that time. Keeping track of which ones you picked up and which ones you haven't is really tough, and was driving me and everybody else that likes to complete things insane. And so
because basically you can't do this without a spreadsheet type of thing.
Yeah. So, Hoyo just caved on it completely. You can just talk to the trash can you turn them into, and the trash can will just tell you where they are.
It's basically cribbed straight out of origami birds from Star Rail.
So yeah, makes it much better for that. I'm very happy they did that. I was running around and collecting the trash can when I discovered the quest I'd mentioned before that ate like half of a day of free time that I had after work. This quest is called The Prophecy. It's a chapter 2 quest, and I had to look up how I triggered it by accident. I wasn't sure how I triggered it. You just talk to a bunch of random NPCs on 6th Street at various times a day throughout the course of several days, and it'll advance their story. And I knew there was a story advancing with these characters. And then the payphone will just have a quest for you, and you'll get a text message that'll open up the prophecy. Prophecy is a Bang Boo TV exploration quest, so oh boy. However,
still sticking with those.
No, we'll get to that. But
oh, good.
It comes with a warning, because this is a quest that was in at the start of the game. It comes with a warning. You load up the mission, and you take the first few steps in, and you meet a trash can. It tells you to send your party away. And then a big pop-up message comes up on your screen that says, make sure you've set aside at least 2 hours to complete this quest.
Yeah, that's a bode well.
And yeah, make sure you've set aside at least 3 or 4 hours before you complete this quest.
Ominous.
The game will tell you to, if you want to get the true ending and get all the loot. Well, not as big a deal anymore, because we'll talk about another system they added, but if you didn't think about this at the time, and you immediately go Google how to get everything in this mission because you're paranoid, and when it says set aside 2 hours to do this quest, and you really don't want to have to do it again, you will load into the mission after you've set aside a gazillion hours of time. You just wander around as the Bang Boo TV representing you, the proxy. And you are given 3 stats: strength, dexterity, and intelligence. When you encounter an enemy on field, instead of going into the normal ZZZ battle, you are given a chat option of attack or flee. And various mysterious nodes and pictures pop up on the map. These are all events or treasure chests or things that will increase one of those stats, that will increase your combat prowess, or give you items that'll help you out. Some of those.
Do you know where the hook is?
Oh, we have to put the hook on it?
Yeah,
I haven't done
where the hook is missing.
I haven't done this puzzle yet. But so yeah, it is a stupid. There's something glowy in the water over there.
Let's have a look.
But yeah, this quest is on a ginormous map with a gazillion events and a gazillion boss fights in it that takes several hours to do.
No hook.
Oh, there's another glowy.
And you have to do it all in one hit?
Yeah, you gotta do it all at once.
Oof.
Now,
I think this might need a
go Bishop. I'll get a Kachina. Of course, I don't know if my Kachina can activate it.
I'll try my one then.
Won't let me. Turns glowy when I pull Kachina out.
So it wants Geo then?
No, it wants Kachina specifically.
Oh, because spin?
We do need the Saurus.
Yeah, it looks like it's Saurus will go home. Kachina does not work.
Kachina will tell you where it is. Find a Saurus.
Unless we're straight up doing it wrong, that's also an option.
Or co-op is screwing with it.
Could be.
But yeah. So that quest ate a whole day. Be careful when you do that quest because it will take forever. And honestly, just rush to the end and only get the it doesn't matter what ending you get or how well you do against the final boss. There is an ending no matter how good you perform. just tap the investigation nodes and get out of there if you just want to save time. It's not very.
At least it warns you.
It is a cute little quest that is interesting. If I wasn't burned out on Bang Boo TV, and it's way too long.
Yeah, you can only take so much Bang Boo TV before it really starts to try your patience.
And yeah,
like in any other context, it would be a good little gimmick if it were only a gimmick.
and I mean, it's a one-off quest. It's only one quest, but I'm so burnt on that stupid Bang Boo TV, and it is so long. In addition to me being burnt on the Bang Boo TV, it was a slog to get through. So yeah, that's just the warning about that quest. But this leads into the other quality of life feature. The Bang Boo TV is being pseudo-retired, it seems like, or
Yay.
relegated to the areas of the game it should have been, which were quick, novel ideas for exploration maps that don't involve any combat, or for the simulated universe.
Although they are also curtailing your forced use of it there.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna die.
So if you have any treasures on an exploration map you have not got before, but you have cleared the map, they're just, after this patch, they just let you talk to Fairy in the map selection screen and say, hey, go get all the crap from this map that I didn't get on my way through. And she'll put a little timer up that's usually 20 minutes to an hour, and she'll come back with the rewards from that map for you, so you don't got to go replay.
Oh, that's good.
So
yeah, because otherwise it's just going to result in people just not doing it, because if you miss a couple chests or whatever, to actually just redo that whole thing would take an egregious amount of time.
yeah, even on double speed, the fastest ones of these, you're looking at like at least 4 to 4.5 minutes of Bang Boo TV that you're not engaged with at all.
That's good that they're listening.
Yeah, so Bang Boo TV is being eased up on what's already been presented. And as for 4.0, there are 2 Bang Boo TV missions. And both of them are side missions. And both of them involve you just driving around a car inside the Bang Boo TV. There is no combat. And they are fast. And so that is the only Bang Boo TV added in this this patch. Everything else, even the story missions, are combat missions. And
which is exactly what everybody asked after they did Undercover R&B, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm sure they knew the Bang Boo TVs were a problem, even from early beta. I remember people complaining about them. So I'm certain the feedback had already got to them. But the fact that they responded this quickly is still impressive. Co-op.
Must be activatable as a co-op thing. Must be.
I will try Kachina when I leave.
You want to know?
I must know. I accidentally opened the special event tab and now have Starlight Reverie pop-up thing. Co-op mode. So, yeah, Bang Boo TV is being effectively cut out, which I love. HIA coins made significantly faster to get, which in turn makes Officer Mew Mew and getting him to shut up actually a possible thing we can do now.
Your deep resentment of Officer Mew Mew never ceases to amuse me.
Yeah, he is just a box of checklists for miscellaneous crap that just I don't care about. I don't want to run around the city and find Bang Boos. I want to punch things.
Do the punchings.
I downloaded an action game. I paid you money for a character in your action game. Oh, yo, let me do the punching.
So Kachina did.
So yeah, that's the other mechanical change there. Cheesetopia being a very substantial event that looks like it's going into an archive of some kind, so it'll always be available even for players that get too late. However, your rewards will be greatly reduced, it looks like. There is a section called permanent rewards. That is just basically a few Primo Gems and baby few materials. But the rest of Cheesetopia is all like, purple tier physical physical skill gems and stuff that's really useful for the current banners. And this seems to follow the format that Star Rail does, and because it has that permanent section, I imagine there will be an event archive of some, which is good. All the new enemy types and environments added are all very good in this one. And the last thing to comment on is I finally stuck my nose in the in-game content, and I did it on the worst day possible.
Oh.
Because it was bugged. And not a little bugged, super bugged. So I was beating my face into a brick wall that I eventually got good enough to get through. But it was a rough ride. So, much like a mixture of Star Rail and Genshin, you have your simulated universe with your exploration of the Great Big Hollow, that I forget the name of, Hollow Zero, and your fight against the thing with the name that starts with an N that's super long at the very end on the throne difficulty. That's one in-game mode. It's the more casual friendly of the in-game modes because it can be offset with blessings. Okay, cool. Then you have the Shiyu defense that Vol keeps having to remind me how to pronounce because I want to call it Shinryu defense every single time I see it. This is a mix of kind of like the pure fiction slash apocalyptic shadows split idea they have going on, with one being focused on bosses and one being focused on just how much crap can you kill. And while at the same time they've got a lot of the Spiral Abyss kind of feel to it. It is split into 2 nodes that are permanent, that are just your introduction to the basic format, that are, I think, 8 and 10 nodes specifically, respectively. And the last nodes on those can be pretty rough to punch your way through the first time, but they're not impossible. I did them with only 2 level 60 characters, and they require 2 teams is their major gimmick. You will click on a node and you will pick a team for side A and a team for side B. Now, there's only 1 encounter on each side for any given node. But for one half of it, 7 nodes worth, it is a standard Spiral Abyss time trial clear. Can you clear it fast enough? I did not have... I was so far ahead on the timer for most of the clears aside from the last couple that I think somebody with just a max level roster of 6 level 60s can reasonably expect to get about 5 of those nodes, even if it's a hodgepodge team. Last 2 nodes may have to do some team jiggering, or have an S rank easily get it, or practice quite a bit if you want to get it with the A ranks, but still doable. It did not feel like it was out of reach, at least at the moment. The other side is the much, much more difficult side, although I get the feeling it's not supposed to be. That side does not have any time requirements. It just says, to get an S rank, nobody on your team can die. And for the first 3... Yeah, that's it. That's the only requirement to get an S rank. Just kill everything on the map, and nobody dies. Huh. There are... For the first 3 of them, they're not that bad. They're fairly standard enemies with a mini boss style enemy that come in waves on each side, and you can cobble together a team for that pretty okay. I feel like anybody can do those. The last 2 are supposed to be...
Tina wasn't the problem. We were just doing it completely wrong.
Okay. So the last 2 nodes, however, for this particular cycle, were bugged. And that they had astronomical health increases from what they were supposed to have. So, for these, for each, there was 1 wave on both sides. For both, each of your teams had to fight 1 wave. And this wave consisted of a giant fatty with an HP pool the size of Jupiter, and a nimble, high damage character that you had to figure out a way to deal with while either taking down the fatty or trying to get around him to focus on the faster character to make him not a problem. Normally, the solution here would be, okay, well, going after the smaller one's an option, right? No, because their HP pool was just as big as the fatties. This was apparently not supposed to happen and has since been nerfed.
Oh, good.
I do not know what the previous tier of this thing was like because I did not attempt it at all. I only went into this one, so I do not know what previous releases of this game mode have been like. But I had a free day. Why not just beat my head into it and experiment all day? And eventually I got the clear. But it took some very serious shenanigans to figure out a way to do it. Because in addition to the fatty body blocking you from touching the little guy, and he will actively body block you. Like his AI is tweaked so that he will get between you and his buddy. He is also somebody has rustled his jimmies. He is jacked up on coke or something because he does not stop attacking. So this worked out for me because I spent money on Jane because I'm not smart, and Jane likes it when people attack her because she can chain dodge counters, and that's where all of her damage comes from. And it's also very easy to avoid damage if the attacks are relentless and in a cadence, like the big fatty was doing. So I would just use him to functionally remain invincible for the Jane side, and just sit there for about 8 minutes dodge countering. So one side was free, but one side was not. Now, my Ambi is still level 50, and if you do a stun lead with a stunner, the stunner is the one that has to stay on field the whole time. Ambi got one shot, so Ambi wasn't an option. My King Gee's gear all rolled defensive stats, and the only time I've been thankful that has ever happened. Because King Gee is the most inappropriate character for this type of challenge. Where her major gimmick is you build up a bar by doing consistent electric damage by using her dodge counter and her mash the square button on her third attack of her combo. And then you can press and hold the square button to dump that bar and make the stun damage bonus bigger on the enemy that you hit with it when they finally get stunned and do a lot of stun damage to them. When you have a big fatty with ants in his pants, you have no time to channel your lightning, and if you animation lock yourself, you're dead. So this turned into, can we perfect dodge with King Yi, who does not have the benefits of bonus perfect dodge iframes that Jane does. For about 8 to 10 minutes straight. And eventually, I figured out that one of the enemies could be looped in a chain dodge counter by just dodging the fatty over and over again and abusing his relentless attack cycle to keep the little guy in stun lock until he finally got a proper stun and I could do team assist and then try to set it up again. And I had to set this up about 4 times to get the kill on the little guy and then run around in circles for the rest of the fight, taking pot shots with grace. Just running away from the fatty. And this worked. And the Jane side was free after that. But man, it was some very intense experimenting, and actually a lot of fun to figure out because I enjoy that kind of challenge in action games. Given that this is the permanent content, or rather the rotating permanent content, I don't mind this level of challenge being there. But Hoyo decided this was too much apparently and had nerfed it, which I can also understand because those HP pools, unless you practice Royal Guarding, you're not going to be able to do what I did. Like this is
even if you have, I mean, are you going to be able to do it reliably for 8 to 10 straight minutes?
Probably not. Like,
are you able to join my game right now? I'm sort of curious because that puzzle dumped me in front of one of these bosses. I don't know whether or not this is one that you can actually join somebody else's game. This might be a solo challenge or not. We'll see.
I'm in a loading screen.
Okay.
Getting Hita back out. And Barbara. Cannot forget Barbara.
No, the boss just disappeared.
Oh. Boss said you're not honorable.
Apparently.
Guess so.
What happens if I leave?
Yeah.
Does he come back if I leave?
Maybe. We'll see. No, it didn't. Just
Wait.
disappeared.
You gotta turn it off co-op mode?
maybe. Let's see if I go off co-op mode will it reappear. Probably a single player only thing. I was sort of curious if anybody else could come in. No, it's not back. It just vanished. Okay.
No, daytime, nighttime thing?
No, there is no daytime, nighttime where he's at. So yeah, now this answered a few questions, regardless of the ridiculous increase in HP. This answered a few questions about what they might be thinking with defense characters. I don't think they've come to a good conclusion on what to do with it, but I at least understand their thought process a little bit. I don't think it works. I think they need to seriously reconsider how that archetype's going to go through, and I think Caesar's a move in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that what they really need to do is go in the sort of the designate support as, say, Harmony and Tank as Nihility type of thing, where they're both support classes, but they do different things, as opposed to actually a passive class that takes damage.
Because in this scenario, if they had this Shiyu defense last two nodes of the don't die ones lined up, I could understand how they would think that would give value to defense characters. The problem is that is a very small amount of your player base that's going to get any value out of defense characters if that's what you built them for. And number two,
they have the metrics. They should be able to tell how many people actually built Ben.
Yeah, and the defense characters just have no point outside of those two nodes. But I can at least understand how you had the idea for this character archetype that could work against this type of relentless assault and abuse it to do more damage than somebody that would be proactive when the enemy can't be hit stunned anyway. Giant mech. And in that scenario, yeah, somebody like Caesar or Ben or Jane, anybody that can play off of that relentless attacking of the enemy is going to do really well. I can understand your logic behind the more defensive characters, but it just that is a very small part of the game, and they do not have any application outside of it. Like Grace is, unless it is like one of the two enemies that's electric resist, Grace is evergreen in the game right now, and even if she falls out of usefulness and gets power crept, you can still use Grace and build her and feel good about playing her if you like her. It's going to work. She's not going to fall apart for most of the game. You know, you build who else? You build Nicole. There's no situation where you're not going to want Nicole. Nicole's going to fit for everything, and this is true for most of the characters in the game. They have at least some application in all parts of the game. Defense characters would only work in the scenario of this particular node type in Shiyu defense. And I just don't think that was a good idea.
Except in the context where you're just viewing them solely as supports. Like, if all you're interested in is buffing Anomaly, you can use Seth like that.
Yeah.
But nobody cares the fact that he's got a shield. But the fact that he buffs Anomaly is important if you're building a very Anomaly-focused team and you want an Anomaly-focused buffer rather than a generalist, then you could use Seth for that, because he does buff Anomaly. He's in the Anomaly as a tank, but you aren't going to be playing him for his tankiness necessarily. You're going to be playing him because he's an Anomaly buffer.
So he can be BFFs with Jane and Grace. Yeah, I have a lot of copies of Seth because I pulled it on the Jane banner a lot. He has a penis.
This is something that he does presumably have, yes.
So, maybe not for long if Jane has anything to say about it. Them razor blades are sharp. She giving him some funny eyes. But, yeah. That's where we're at with ZZZ. I wanted to cover the in-game stuff quickly because we have talked about we don't know what they were thinking with defense. But I can understand now what the initial thought process might have been. The problem is in the end state of the product, that situation just doesn't come up anywhere near often enough for it to matter.
This seems to be sort of endemic. Like, we can sort of see the same thing with Bangbu TV, right? Like,
Mhm.
you can tell what they were trying to do, but when the rubber meets the road, it's not what people want to do.
Yeah.
And it's not going to last long term because people become fatigued on it very quickly.
Yeah. Furthermore, catering to this type of enemy type for as to be more common really makes it difficult for characters that can't play against it. So if you don't have Jane or Caesar or Ben built, what are you going to do if they make this super
Right,
common?
presumably.
Yeah.
Like, there's really not really much you can do if like I said much earlier when we were discussing this many moons ago. Unless you make it obligatory to have somebody in your party to take a truckload of damage to the face, there is no role for tanking as traditionally conceived.
Yeah. So yeah. I just wanted to bring that note up because it's actually the last two notes of that because it was relevant to our discussions about defense characters before. But other than that, I enjoyed my time pushing through the in game. Actually, it was even with the difficulty of it, ZZZ is still a fun game to play. Like a difficulty like that and having to replay something over and over again. If I've got the time for it, I love that crap. But these days, I need a flood to have that kind of time, where I can just really replay a mission over and over again. But the stars happen to align for me to actually take a look at this and give us a bit more context into what we're talking about when we complain about these characters.
Literally relying on natural disasters for the viability of your game is kind of questionable.
Well, I have to have a hypothetical flood, so it's not an actual natural disaster. Well, for other people it was, just not for me.
It's like the Y2K bug.
Yeah. So
Yes.
so yes.
There you go. You just aged yourself.
Oh man, I remember when that was going on when I was little. Oh man.
Or when that wasn't going on exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but it was on
It was supposed to be happening.
everything on television would not shut up about it.
Oh, it
1999.
was.
Like I was 9 years old then, but even I remember TV going nonstop about Y2K.
It was like the Coof Panic, except stupider.
No, it wasn't quite the same deal as the Coof Panic. It was like
There's
watching.
a different flavor of stupid.
It was like watching a bunch of televangelists try to scam people.
Mm-hmm.
Except about some catastrophic event. Don't worry, the world's really ending this time, guys. We swear.
Yeah, except this is a computer bug that was sorted out a decade ago.
So,
Uh,
but yeah. So that's all I got for the stuff. ZZZ did really well this patch. While I brought up some complaints about their decisions, they have clearly started to course correct with Caesar, and you get to play as Bernice in the story for one mission if you use the trial characters, and that also helps sell it to me. I like what they're doing with that. I think it's a very good way to take anomaly characters, even if it does feel a little bit power creepy for anomaly in general.
Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what's going on there because she plays just like an attack character more or less.
Yeah, you just only want her for
Except
one loop.
except you want her for one loop, and she operates at a. Honestly, it feels to me more like a Genshin Catalyst character rhythm rather than a ZZZ rhythm. Like that's the rhythm of playing the character is different.
Yeah, you it's about trying to find an opening to get the full flamethrower dump and then do the hold spinny move to get the burn effect on them and then tag her out for your other anomaly character presumably to go to town. So she will work well on my Grace team. I'm pretty much committed to at least attempting to pull for her. I joke that I will spend $50 on her, but I'm not sold on it yet. Although it's not an impossibility, I have been known to make impulse purchases before.
You've been known to make bad decisions regarding blondes before.
Yes. So not an impossibility. I do like Bernice a lot. So yeah, I'm currently going through the hard mode versions of the story quests because when you're at max world level, the hard modes don't scale all the way up to level 60. It's quite easy to just outstat them, especially with S ranks, where I comfortably have a whole minute left on a 2.5 minute timer for one of them. So A rank should also have no trouble if I'm that far ahead. especially when my drive discs are absolute crap. They're
I'm
leveled.
thinking about drive discs.
They're leveled, but they are crap. So yeah, I'm enjoying ZZZ. Theoretically, I will get to a point not too far in the future, actually, where I will just be playing as patch content comes out with each patch, and won't have any of the backlogged initial launch stuff to take care of if I keep going at the pace. And
But the resources, man, the resources.
Yeah, but yeah,
leveling resources are bonkers. You could sink an infinite amount of time into that because it takes so long.
Yeah, they really need to just do a 50% increase on every single leveling resource across the board, or a 50% cost reduction, either one.
I don't see them doing that. I think that this is what they're viewing as what keeps people engaged, but they may add additional ways to get more, or add a lot of bonuses to events and things.
Yeah, I think that would go. But yeah, I want to see where Cheesetopia goes. I'm quite invested in the story of Cheesetopia. And yeah, it's going to be a fun time, and we'll talk about Cheesetopia next week.
All right.
So that's more than I was going to go into initially in my week, but given the it tied into a lot of stuff that we were talking about in the previous week, steamrolled. So yeah, until patches come out, that's all the narrative progress in Ho-Yo games and all the mechanical progress I'll probably talk about for a while.
Well, you say that, but 5.1, the only announcement they gave was that it was for 5.1 for Genshin was coming out in October. But at the time they announced it, well, there was like 2 days left of September, so
I presume it will come out shortly after or when the Kanish banner ends.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting.
Like, it seems that would line up with the rest of this. So about 9 days. So yeah, Ho-Yo game's kind of in a holding pattern right now. I'll probably talk about Topaz next week and how those pulls go, and yeah, I'm sure Vol will enjoy his C2 Grace.
Ugh. Why does the gacha hate me so much?
Because the gacha is malice.
At least her C2 is good, and you did get Caesar.
I did get Caesar and her W engine, but I depleted way more resources than I expected to do so.
Yeah, you went
not more than I should have expected, but more than I did expect.
It was not a nice pull, but not quite a Dory disaster.
It wasn't Dory, although I have more pipers than I ever will need.
She's trying to tell you something, man.
Now that she's at level at 6, there's not really any reason for me not to build her because she's going to perform like a 4.5 star.
Yeah, and physical anomaly is so good for so many things. Like, forget Jane's dodge counters. Just having her to physical anomaly whop a group of the humanoid baby mooks is so handy in speeding up. And Piper can do functionally the same thing. She won't crit with it, so she may have to pop it twice. But still, it goes by really fast. She builds anomaly really quick, too. So yeah, that's what wrote those. That's the end of my week. I think I covered everything that was this ridiculous week. So, we have any specific news topics lined up? I didn't post anything in live show host this week. Or in show host this week because
largely this week has been people either playing games or decidedly not playing games around the place.
Yeah, we kind of covered it earlier. Most of the gaming news I've seen has been the just the collapse of the woke investor type gaming companies.
And just the sheer implosion of Ubisoft.
Well, this is just the end state of writing off like the market as a factor in your market calculations.
Yes.
Like, people actually have to buy your game before it becomes a good game. Like, whether or not you think it's good is totally irrelevant because your scale of good is not related in any way to people's preferences. It's just, oh, well, do I think that this is going to give me a good enough ESG score to get investment from BlackRock and Vanguard? Like, I'm sorry, but that's not going to make you any sales because none of the market looks at your ESG score.
Yeah.
I
Ultimately,
mean, if all
there's
you're
the
interested in is tax write-offs, then
yeah. What are you doing?
They're on
Are you throwing
pufferfish.
fish?
Pufferfish. They're pink puffer.
Why are you abusing the pufferfish? So
that's
yeah,
how Milani fights.
yeah. The last few weeks, it's really been like there's the often abused quote of "the customer is always right," and this tends to be one of the meanings behind that phrase. It's like the market will correct.
The customer in the particular market of things like consumer goods and luxury goods, yes, they're always. If they are purchasing a pump, however, they are almost always wrong.
Oh yeah, yeah. On an individual level, no, the customer is a gibbering buffoon. Oh, I think I just broke my game because Paimon is stuck here, and oh. Can you see my Paimon?
No.
No, well,
No,
Paimon's just there.
Nobody can see anybody's Paimon.
Oh, don't worry. Paimon gets hung up in weird spots for quests all the time.
Okay. So yeah, that's basically been what all the news is this week. Has been the collapse of Ubisoft and Ubisoft scrambling to correct the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows has been delayed to February, which nobody missed the irony of. Well, not the irony, the sneakiness of, which I think is probably a better word.
Oh, are they trying to cram it in? I almost said a word.
They are trying to cram it into Black History Month, yes. And nobody is falling for that.
Like it was what like I know that Black History Month has taken a sharp turn towards Black A History Month, but this is a little bit on the nose.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people claiming that they've got insiders at Ubisoft and stuff saying this, that, and the other thing. One or two of them probably do have insider knowledge. Most of them, it's probably just absolute bull honky, but
well, lots of people get fired from Ubisoft because it does run on nepotism.
it do. So we'll see. There's lots of rumors and say so, like saying that they're going to try and take Yasuke out, or at least minimize his role in Shadows, but I don't see that happening.
Well, they're afraid of the consequences, right? Because the people will write mean articles about them if they do that, and that's what they're concerned about. If their interest was ever in making a good video game, none of this would have happened. But it's not, and it hasn't been.
And it hasn't been for years. Yeah, there's just, like I said earlier, there's just been absolutely no soul in any Ubisoft games. Maybe the first Mario vs. Rabbids because it was just such a dumb idea, but that was about it. The second one, no, that was just a cash grab.
Like my doll.
Your doll? Oh, it's a doll. Like my doll?
Aaron Bunny.
As much as I want to, I cannot take Amber out of my team for very long. She just solves too many puzzles.
Yeah, that do be her role.
It is what she do. It's why I think that's why they give you Amber, like, straight up.
Yes, it's because they want to have torch.
Yes. And they are everywhere. Let's beat up the big guy. Or explode. Explode is fine too.
Oh crap, I'm on. So my Chiori is not built for personal damage. My Chiori is built to supply bullets for Navia.
So yeah, I'm just doing a quick flick through. There is also the whole Ghosts of Yutani thing, which should have been a home run until people started opening their big fat mouths.
Well, they seem to think that there will never be a time that it will fail. That we'll just turn this towards politics and everything will be fine. When it's more that there will never be a case when it succeeds. Like it's it's kind of a nonsense to keep walking this road where you take the if you don't like it, don't play it route, because even if people would under normal circumstances simply take your advice, once you have decided to sort of belittle them in that way, you've just made them your enemies. This is not a neutral exchange anymore. You've set yourself as an opposition to them. This is no longer a game that they are not interested in that exists in a vacuum. It is a game that has been made in order to upset them. If you decide to take that posture publicly, the way that Sony has,
Just don't do it.
yeah, you don't need to say anything. Keep your damn trap shut.
You gain nothing from from this. Just shut up.
Like up until recently, silence is golden was a well-known marketing principle when somebody doesn't like your product. But nowadays, like, you just can't shut up. You absolutely can't shut up. You just have to come out and belittle your own customers over and over again. Well, there's a consequence for doing that.
Yep, like we've seen it all the time from a lot of game studios, particularly from Disney. Disney's very fond of it. And yeah, the people will respond. They'll just close their wallets. That's all people have to do.
Companies are finally figuring out that the functionally unlimited money has a limit.
Yeah.
See
There's
Ubisoft
also the
stock
fact that
price.
a lot of these games started or were in peak development during the absolute peak of the woke movement. And now that they're coming out right at the time when it's kind of swinging back the other way very heavily, it's kind of amplifying everything.
I don't think it's that they were so much at the peak of the woke movement, because the peak of the woke movement was about in 2016. The problem is that what we now have is the metastasized version of the woke movement. The issue is actually that they were in production at the peak of the COVID period, where everybody was at home and their brain existed entirely on the internet. And so they ingested
true, yeah.
whatever was going on the internet as though it were real.
Yeah. Guess what? The internet isn't real.
I have to regularly remind people in real life that Twitter is not reality.
Twitter is definitely not reality. I just found a big guy up in a hut in here, and he doesn't leave me a whole lot of room to fight.
I've just been spamming emotes at you.
I noticed. There we go. Got him. So, yeah, beyond that, we're kind of in like the big launch season is September, early October. So all the games are starting to come out. Well, actually, they've been coming out. I will have to say, though, America, take your damn holiday back, please.
Which one?
Halloween. We have Halloween creep here at the moment.
Oh, right. That wasn't really a thing in y'all's part of the world, was it?
Nope.
No,
it's only really been over the last maybe decade or so.
It's
Oh, yeah.
Silly commercialized bullcrap. Like, it's an adjunct to a Catholic festival, but Catholics don't celebrate it because it's actually an American phenomenon.
Yeah. It's just like I walked into the shops today and here's people already in costume. It's not even October yet.
When I was little, the real blowing up of Halloween seems like a very recent phenomenon all over where it's celebrated. Because when I was little, it was just a thing. Take your kids out at like the perfect time in the South, especially when the summer heat had just ended and fall was really in full swing, but it wasn't cold, and people lived in nice, safe neighborhoods, and you could go around and have some fun with your kids. That's all Halloween was.
Just a bit of fun.
Yeah, like there would be spooky props and stuff for a few lawn decorations here and there, but it never culturally gripped anything. Maybe a few TV shows would run a Halloween special or something. It only seems recently that it took off the way it did, and I don't really know why.
It's the Arrested Development generation. It's the millennials who didn't grow up because they had a dysfunctional childhood, and so they don't stop being a child. They think that Halloween has to persist in the exact same way it did when they were a kid.
Yeah, like it's always been a TV thing that we've seen, and it seemed to have two big waves. It's like you had the wave as a kid when you were going out and trick or treating, and then you had the kind of the early 20s college age where you basically go to a house, dress up, and get absolutely shit faced.
The trick or treating thing never happened in New Zealand.
No,
Like there were a few attempts to start it being a thing, but it never stuck. It was
typically.
maybe
Yeah.
one family in 20 might attempt to do it, but because nobody cooperated, it sort of died out.
Yeah, the Australian way of doing trick or treating is the parents go around to the neighbours' houses a couple of days before and just give them treats to hand out. So, yeah,
It's
the whole
entirely
thing
a forced meme in New Zealand. Like, it's
Oh, yeah,
not
it
something
is.
that has any organic nature or any desire of anybody to participate. The only reason that any child might ever want to do it is because they've seen it in American media.
Yeah,
In its original inception that I remember from my childhood, I have a lot of fond memories of Halloween because it was a real look, especially looking back on it, because it was a real good way to get a neighborhood to come together and meet each other in an era where we were getting more and more disconnected, especially. And as long as it stayed like that, it would have been great because you'd have to go to people's houses to trick or treat, and the parents may stop and chat for a minute when their kids get to that house if they kind of sort of know the neighbor, and maybe hang out a bit more later if they find something of interest to talk about, or maybe their kids can meet the neighbor's kids. Like that kind of stuff was just kind of organic community interaction that would happen through the apparatus of Halloween. But once Halloween stopped being just a fun thing to do for an evening with your kids, and to just go around the neighborhood and meet the locals, that whole feeling just kind of died.
yeah.
But I think that
Basically,
had
here
value.
the the Australian part of it is basically started and stopped at getting shit faced.
Well,
But
that's basically the Australian part of an awful lot of things.
That's generally yes. It's an excuse to go out and party and get shit faced.
As though Australians need an excuse.
It's Tuesday. That's an excuse.
Prettier.
I'm just doing a quick flick through. No, actually, the Metaphor Ray Fantasio demo came out. Apparently, I've checked that out.
I many years ago I was keeping an eye on that game, but it's been dev hell for so long. There's no reason to
It has
think
been for what, 4 years?
it's been in the works for over half a decade.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Also, Dead Rising Remaster came out and nobody seems to care. So there's that.
Oh, it was
Apart from
terrible.
the fact that they censored a bunch of stuff, that's the only thing people really noticed, is that it wasn't as good as the original.
Yeah.
Because
Also,
they
you can
couldn't
just go back and
resist
buy the
changing
original for $10.
things. Yeah, I mean, if you want to sell it again, you at least need to not change things. Come on.
Yeah, just leave it as it is.
Well, what person buys a remaster of an old game in order to get a different experience?
Yeah. If you want a remake or a retelling of that story, well, it works as long as you market it correctly. But just saying, yeah, we're going to remaster it and censor a bunch of stuff and push it out the door, consume it, you cows.
Well, there's ultimately it's because there's not a blind bit of creative juice left in the games industry in the West at all. Like, they're just useless. They have no ability to continue their work.
I think it's more than just the gaming industry. Like the whole.
Well, it's entertainment as a whole, and largely speaking, the cultural output of the West is dead.
So anyway, we should stop rambling and shut up.
Yeah, we've been going long.
Yeah, it's quite late because of daylight savings.
You have to have the daylight servings, daylight
No, we don't.
lyings.
We definitely don't need to, but we do anyway.
Yes, I don't, because my state is smart. Yeah, no one in Australia here actually likes daylight savings. It's just a pain in the butt.
Anybody anywhere really likes it. I've never heard anybody give me a sort of like a stirring defense of it that implied that they actually cared.
Something Beatles apparently, but that's the best I've gotten.
Well, that was when it was invented by some traitorous New Zealander.
Yes. People keep attributing it to Ben Franklin for some reason. That's wrong.
Because Americans are incredibly narcissistic. That's why.
Well, no, specifically with Ben. Ben made a whole lot of things. So everybody in America, just whenever something gets popularized as being invented by, somebody will say Ben Franklin, and everybody just like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right, okay.
And nobody will question it any further. The dude just was into all kinds of weird stuff. He was also a major. He got it on with the ladies in France, and almost got the U.S. in trouble several times because he did.
I suppose it could have been better than Edison. I suppose he was right into the really wacky stuff.
Look, you got your own fatous down here.
I have all sorts of stuff over here. I don't think I've actually been in this little area. Oh, there's the Ungabungas down there. I do not want to play with them.
Want me to just Shiori him?
Or you could do that. I was gonna have to crack out Barbara.
I'll let the doll do it.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right, folks. Y'all got anything for us on this up?
No.
Nope.
All right.
But if you want a job, come see me.
Does anybody want a job that badly?
Probably not.
Fern would probably be a good boss if you just showed up for
Well,
work.
it's not about who his boss is. It's about
If
where
you
you're
show up.
working.
Yeah.
I don't,
Like,
If you show up, you are better than 99% of others.
Fern lives on the shores of hell. I mean,
Surface of Mars, thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, folks. I think we're done as soon as I help Fern. All right.
I've got Fatui trauma now.
We will. That was a full 10-minute interlude. Fern, go dig through the archive and you'll see what we were doing.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, we'll see
Mainly
y'all.
waiting for my res food to come back.
Yeah. We'll see y'all next week. Sayonara.